Here we go. We are live streaming.
Oh,
Huzzah.
snap.
All right, let's get this all set up so we can see everything. There's our chat.
Oh, thank you, Andy.
Yes.
You're the best.
No problem.
There we are. We're live.
Oh, yay.
Hell
I'm going to
yeah.
get a little closer
Yeah,
to
let's
you.
get closer.
Yeah. All right.
Yo,
awesome.
what's up,
Hi,
Will?
Legender.
What's up, you guys? What's up, Legender? Legender. I never know how to say your name.
I'm going to say Legender because it's legendary.
I like that.
Yes.
Well, guys, welcome to the 100th episode of Sci-Fi with Jesse Mercury.
We did it.
We did it. We made it.
It
I
was
didn't
all
die
you.
before 100
Good.
episodes. That was the worst high five I've ever been a party to.
Before the end
Let's
of
try
this,
this again.
we're going to
Hold
get a
on.
really good one.
Boom! Oh my God!
Yikes.
That was
Okay.
kind of painful.
Ah, that hurt.
Legender, we're great. We're doing great. Hey, Will, this is my friend Jeff Tapia.
Hi.
She was in the very first episode of my podcast with me almost 2.5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been talking about Star Trek The Next Generation one season at a time ever since the first episode. So it worked out perfectly to get to 100 episodes and be on season 7 and finish the show.
Also, that means it took me like 2.5 years to watch
Totally.
all of TNG somehow, even though it's highly addictive.
Yeah, but it's nice to spread it out, though.
Yeah.
I mean, I watched it with you. I rewatched it with you over that whole period because I had never seen it with the new special effects, like the remastered version that was put on
Right.
Netflix, and I loved it. I mean, it was so much fun. I just loved seeing it so fresh and crisp. It was like seeing it for the first time.
That's
all over
just
again.
how it looks like to me.
Yeah,
Because
totally.
I've never seen it any other way.
It's just fresh and
Yeah,
crisp.
it's just beautiful. It's beautiful.
Well, we have a special treat. Before we dive into our Season 7 discussion, we have a special guest. My amazing girlfriend, Andy El Hadif, is here. Get in here.
Oh, is that how you say your last
We're
name?
going to see if we can...
El Hadif?
Yeah, like I've had it.
I guess I've never tried to say it out loud.
Let's see if we can all fit.
Yeah. Oh, I'll scooch over a little bit.
bit.
Ooh, there she is.
There we go.
There she is.
So Andy's become a big
Totally.
part of the sci-fi show recently. She's been in a bunch of episodes, and Andy's like getting familiarized with sci-fi slowly as we go through and watch a whole bunch of shit together.
Awesome. I never knew. I always knew I was a nerd, but I just like didn't know to what degree until I met Jesse.
Jesse has a tendency to make people realize their full nerd potential. I feel like. I
so
think
proud.
that's like a thing that you do for sure.
Absolutely.
That's the happiest thing I've ever heard.
I never would have just done a Star Trek podcast.
Yo, Sean, what's up, dude? Welcome.
Yeah.
Welcome. Thank you guys for hanging with us.
Yeah, welcome, guys.
So Andy's actually started watching Star Trek: The Next Generation now.
Yeah,
She's
I'm
in.
a little behind. I'm on I just saw the first episode of season 3.
You saw half of it until you
That's
fell
good.
asleep.
I saw half until I fell asleep.
That's good. It took me a long time to get to season 3.
Yeah, somehow that next. But I was hearing that season 3 is like where it kind of.
That's
finds
where
its
it
footing.
gets. I was talking to this guy on Tinder. I don't know. Maybe he's watching.
I hope
But
so.
I was talking to this guy on Tinder about Star Trek, and yeah, I guess that's like a general across the board. Everyone thinks that like season 3 is really where it starts.
Yeah, I mean, I love
Getting
seasons
really
1 and
good.
2. But
I mean, I do now. After finishing it, I would like to go back and watch those first two seasons, and just knowing what I know now,
Yeah,
like
totally.
just seeing what I think, but yeah, the first two. Remember, I told you I was like having a lot of trouble.
Getting through it.
Yeah, last episode. Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
So yeah,
That's a common complaint, is that the first 2 seasons are a little hard to get through, but
Yeah.
I love them. Like, I get really into it. I mean,
Yeah.
I love it because I know how good the show's going to get, and the first 2 seasons are so awkward, and it's like the show's going through puberty.
it kind of is though. I want to get into that when we get to the last episode.
Totally.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because there's a lot to explore there.
Absolutely.
In that sense.
Yeah. Well, we're going to get
Yeah.
into some spoilery
Yeah,
shit, so we just wanted to say hi to Andy.
I just wanted to say hi too. I'm so excited. I will be watching this on my phone.
Andy made me this tea.
I mean, I put water
She
in the
acted
kettle.
she acted like a radio PA today, and it made me feel very special.
I should have like had craft services
Yeah.
out, and
Yeah, get your
next
free
time.
work ethic together.
I know. What am I thinking?
Woman, person. Sorry, I didn't mean to assume your
Oh,
gender.
that's okay. No worries. Yeah, you guys have an amazing. I was about to say I was gonna listen But I don't
you
think I
can't.
should.
No,
Yeah.
don't.
So
Well,
Just
before
wait.
you go, give us your
Archive.
thoughts on Star Trek so far. Like, how are you feeling about it 2 seasons in?
Oh my god, I'm super into it. I think as I get further in, it's better and better because you start to feel like you know the characters, like they're your friends, and you're watching your friends have adventures in space, and it's just like, oh, this is great. I love the idea of the Prime Directive. Just in life, I've been thinking about that and how to apply that in my own life, like not interfering with other people.
It's just good for social shit too.
Yes.
Like I'm like, you don't need to stir the pot here. Nobody needs to know your opinion. Let let this
Right.
argument play out. This has nothing to do with you, bitch. Like, stuff like that.
That sounds
Yeah.
like that should be the Star Trek slogan. Nothing to do with you, bitch.
That's basically it, though,
Yeah, that's
right?
Starfleet.
Yeah. Like, come on,
That's like
dude.
emblazoned
Yeah.
in giant pink letters on
Be
Starfleet
chill,
headquarters.
stay out of people's shit. That's
Nothing to do with you, bitch.
Yeah.
And when in doubt, rock a spacesuit.
Oh yeah.
A speed suit.
When in doubt, wear a scant.
Yeah.
We just I'm just getting glimpses of the new uniforms in
Right.
season 3, so
Oh, they're good.
I'm
They're
excited
good.
about
They
that.
start getting real good.
I like the original uniforms because they're so tight.
They're so awkward.
I love that. I love that.
I can see all of Jean-Luc's stuff.
Oh, it's there. It's fully present. I know. Is the scant the one that's the sort of dress looking?
Yeah.
I wish that they had really like stuck with that for all of the like having men wear that and women wear. Like I just think that would have been cool.
Yeah.
I
I would
agree.
like to have seen like longer skirts on dudes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
or just like something mid-length. Like when you see a guy in a
Totally.
tunic, it's always
Yeah.
going to be really short and like kind of futuristic.
Right,
Or
right.
like really long and like ritualistic.
Totally.
You know?
You're right.
I want some good like mid-length,
That's a good
pretty
point.
flowing skirts on men.
Wow, I never
In this
thought about
universe.
that.
I feel
never
like
saw
it would
that.
be on brand.
Yes.
I feel like it would be.
Star Trek, if you're listening.
Yeah.
Sean says he doesn't remember what season, but he loves Star Trek Next Generation because they introduced the Borg, which is his favorite bad guy. Yeah, that's they introduced him in
They're
season 2,
scary.
and then they have
Yeah.
the big cliffhanger at season 3, at the end of season 3.
Is that the one where Jean-Luc becomes?
Shh, shh, shh.
A pineapple?
Yes.
We should get Andy out of here.
Go-
Okay, everyone say bye to Andy.
I'm
Thank
gonna
you so
miss
much
you
for
so much,
saying hi
Andy.
and hanging out on the
Thank you for
stream for a second.
the moment. Yes.
That was a close one.
Okay, yeah, shoes and socks and then I'm out.
All right.
Later on, I'm going to do some Star Trek trivia with you.
Are you with
Uh-huh,
me?
yeah.
Oh my God.
I feel like it's a good way to spend the 100th episode, like something to do.
I love that idea.
It will be brought to you courtesy of a website that I will let you know
Okay.
when I figure out.
Oh my God,
exactly
I'm
which
so
one.
excited.
Yeah.
Man, I can't believe that. Let's just talk about this while Andy's working her way out. I can't believe that I've done 100 of these. It's
I can.
crazy.
It's like all you ever do.
I do so much other shit. That's not all I ever do. But it's a big part of what I do.
Yeah, you do that a lot.
I do it a lot.
Yeah,
That's for
I
sure.
believe it. I'm
Yeah.
amazed that it's only been 100.
Hey, Nicholas, first time listening to your podcast, dude. Thanks for
Welcome,
joining us.
Nicholas.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird because like I look back and I'm like, I have made a whole lot of these, and I don't know what they're for. I don't know if anyone listens to them. I don't know if they're good, but I like doing it.
I love talking,
Yeah,
so
talking's fun.
I'm glad that you do these with like have me on here. It's really great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What if you had a podcast? What would you want to talk about?
Well, I probably would never have a podcast.
Yeah.
But what would I want to talk about? Food, probably.
Hmm.
But like not like in a fancy way, just like you know what? It's good. Doritos.
Kind of like Dan's new podcast.
Well, yeah, his is more fancy though.
You think so?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's getting fancier as it goes along.
Yeah,
Our friend Dan
absolutely.
DeRozier is making a new
Check
show.
out Food Babies
Food Babies.
podcast when it comes out.
Yeah.
It'll be out at the beginning of next year for sure. And
Yeah.
I'm on that podcast also. So if you think
And so
I'm
am I.
hilarious, I tell a really dirty story in it.
I remember.
Yeah. So.
Thank you, Andy. Bye.
Andy.
Okay. All right. Spoiler time, guys. So we're getting into
Oh,
the spoilers for
so
season
good.
7. So if you don't want season 7 spoiled for you,
Woo,
bail out
girl.
now. Okay. What were your general thoughts about the last season of this
The
show?
last season was one of the best seasons.
I agree.
Ever. It
I
was
agree.
so good.
Yeah.
What's it called? I really just like seeing how far everyone's come you know, and you see that especially in the last episode, like the contrast between how people started out and how people have really grown between, and just like being like in the future, like what that might evolve into. But
Totally.
But so that's like summing everything up really nicely. But like, yeah, I do love everything about this last season. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. It was just amazing.
It's a really interesting way to go because it seems like as the show goes along, they try to make like bigger stakes, you know. They have to kind of outdo themselves from the cliffhanger from the year before.
You know, it's interesting you should say that though, because something that I was just thinking about, sorry to cut you off, but
well, what I was going to say is that season 7, they seem to scale back the stakes and just focus on character.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
and I love
exactly
that.
what I was
think that's
say.
fantastic.
Yeah, like it's really, really more of a character-driven season because they're like, you know what, and I'm probably not even going to remember what most of the conflicts are in a lot of these,
right?
Because I just don't feel like that's important to what's actually happening in the story in this season at this point in their lives. You know, like there's always going to be a bad guy. There's always going to be some disease that's taking everyone over and like turning them into crazy people. There's always going to be something, you know, so like that's just becomes more of a norm that everyone's like, yeah, okay, cool, they're beating something, whatever. But like what's going on with Worf and Troy though?
I know, I love it. I love it so much. There's a lot of bottle episodes where they don't leave the ship, and there's a lot of interpersonal relationships being explored in a new way. It seems like these people have all become family, and then what happens after that? You know, like what happens once they're already family? Like what new interesting combinations of characters can we see? What things can we explore from people's backstories that we haven't touched on since seasons 1 or 2? Like what's the best way to say goodbye to these characters? And because the show is very episodic, it's not like one long story, but for me, it's always been one long character journey. Like the whole 7 seasons is just all these characters kind of developing into who they're going to be by the end of the series. And I think that season 7 really focuses on that. And when it does, it like really excels. That being said, there are some terrible episodes in season 7.
There are. I had some trouble digesting some of it. And I kind of wish I had known that they were going to be terrible beforehand, because I was really trying to cram and get these like watched before I came to do, because I really wanted this to be the 100th also, you know. So like, so there were some where I like ended the episode and I was like, fuck, dude, I have like 8 hours left and you give me that bullshit. Like,
I know. There are some like series lows in season 7 for sure. I mean, Sub Rosa, Beverly fucks a ghost, and it is so bad.
You hate that one. I remember you telling me that. That was bad.
It was bad.
It was a bad episode.
We'll get there. We have a lot to talk about. We'll get there for sure. But so behind the scenes a little bit, there was Deep Space Nine starts airing concurrently with Next Generation when Next Generation's in season 6. So for the last 2 years of Next Generation, all the people that are on the Star Trek team are making 2 shows. But then they start gearing up to make Star Trek Voyager, which aired, I think, the year after Next Generation ended. So they didn't overlap, but it came out right after. So then all of a sudden you have these people developing a 3rd show, and there's a lot of people who feel that Next Generation didn't get the attention it deserved.
Like suffered?
Yeah, in season 7 because of that.
I hear that, and I raise you the possibility that they took some risks.
I agree. Yeah.
And that doesn't always work out.
I agree. Totally.
That's why it's a risk.
I think that I think that with limited, I feel like maybe they had less resources than they did the year before because a new show was coming.
Right.
And maybe that's why we got so many bottle shows where they just don't leave the ship, and it's just the whole entire episode happens on the ship. There's a lot of that this season.
Which makes for creative writing, though, you know.
Totally. And I actually really have always liked bottle shows. You know, I kind of enjoy just dealing with our characters and not having a guest star, and, you know, and there's a couple times that happens this year, but there's also like, they just like swung and missed a couple of times.
Yeah, it'll happen. Yeah, for sure.
Like episodes that are as bad as the bad episodes in seasons 1 or 2 or worse. Yeah. Well, should we dive into it? We're going to go through every episode of the season and talk about our thoughts. Yeah, we'll be checking in with chat throughout the episode. So let's see. Sean
Jesse,
says,
I love all the things Star Trek. Do you ever do a Star Wars podcast? By the way, are either of you excited for The Last Jedi?
Well,
that last question is a big resounding yes.
Big fuck yeah. I've done a lot of Star Wars episodes. Star Wars and Star Trek are the things I cover the most on my show.
Mm-hmm.
I've like when Rogue One came out, I did an episode. When Force Awakens came out, I did 3 episodes about that, I think. I've done on my other show, SciFi on Trial. We did the Trial of the Phantom Menace.
Yeah. I just rewatched the original trilogy, and I have the special
non-fucked
edition.
up version, the despecialized edition.
The despecialized edition, but like from when it came out, like the one run of VHS that they did for.
Oh, the VHS.
Yeah, so
that's fucking cool.
I have a VHS player or a tape player, as we used to call them when I was a kid. But I have a VHS player, so I watched all 3 of them in a row. And that's why I was asking all those droid questions. Remember on Facebook? Did you see that at all?
No, I didn't see that.
I was like, so wait, are they our slaves? Like, because
yeah, totally.
And like, because it had been like a decade. But anyway, I love Star Wars also. Like that is something that you know, I'm not as big of a nerd as Jesse is, but that's something that I love. So I'm definitely excited for The Last Jedi.
Yeah, I really can't wait for that.
Yeah.
And then he asks, what's your favorite episode or episodes of Next Generation? Mine has to be Best of Both Worlds or the one where Lore was leading the Borg. That's interesting because that's the first episode of season 7. That's
Best of Both Worlds? Or
Best of Both Worlds is that's the Borg thing with Picard where Picard is taken over.
Oh, that okay, word.
Yeah. Locutus of Borg. Yeah, I mean, for me, like, honestly, the very last episode is one of my absolute favorites.
Yeah, me too.
I adore the last episode.
So far, I mean, I just finished watching it. Like the second that I walked in the door, that's when it was like
you
done.
Like walked in teary-eyed.
And I was like all teary-eyed. But it's hard for me to pick my favorite episodes. That's a big question, Sean. Because I don't know. Like there's so many good ones. Probably any of the Data episodes. You can all go ahead and eliminate any of the holodeck episodes. None of those are going to be my favorite. And
what about a Data holodeck episode? What about when they do the
doesn't redeem it? Okay. I love Data, and those he makes them the more tolerable holodeck episodes,
like the Sherlock Holmes episodes. I love it. It's so good.
I just hate it. I am sorry. I tried. I don't even know why this season they use that goddamn holodeck, and again it tries to murder them. Like, why do you guys keep going in there?
Yeah, totally. I don't mind it. I mean, I don't know. I would take the risk of using the holodeck because it's so cool. So it makes sense to me that they keep going back in.
I guess so. I mean, it's powerful technology.
Axon Media. I believe that's Justin. Also, hello, Justin. What about Barkley on the holodeck?
I
love Barkley on the holodeck.
That was hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So good.
That was fun. There's an exception to every rule, though.
Totally.
I mean, but it's still not going to be my favorite episode. And in my favorite episodes.
I mean, several of my favorites are actually in this season. I have favorites in every season. I would need to sit down with like a chart and some science and a map or something to figure out what my favorite episode of this show is. You're going to have to do
a supplemental Patreon podcast.
Oh, yeah. About my favorite episodes?
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
I like that idea.
Yeah.
I might do that, but I...
Cool.
Might not. We'll see.
Wow.
I want to do that. I want to do that.
So out of the 2 outcomes,
one is it happening, the other is it not happening. I would love to do that. If I have time to, I will do that. It's really cool.
For sure.
Okay, so season 7 starts with Descent Part 2, which we actually talked about last time, but we'll just touch on it briefly.
Yeah.
This is the one.
I loved it so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the one where I mean, I'm actually I'm not as wild about Descent Part 1 or Part 2, but this is the looking at Memory Alpha, the Star Trek Wikipedia. Here's the synopsis. Picard tries to free Data from Lore's control. The Enterprise battles the Borg ship. So the Enterprise battling the Borg ship, that's when Dr. Crusher's in command. And I love that stuff.
I love Dr. Crusher in command so much.
I know,
if you
love
listen to the last episode that I was on, I just talk about it a lot. I love her in command.
So
she's great.
The big deal from this episode is that at the end of it, Data gets an emotion chip, and then
but he can only feel hate.
Well,
and
that's
anger.
that's because Lore's like tricking him.
Yeah,
but remember in the end he like gets Lore's emotion chip,
but he almost throws it away.
Yeah, and Geordi tells him to keep it.
Keeps it for him because he's like, I'm your friend, man.
Yeah,
you wouldn't. There's someday that you want this. Whatever.
So there's the theory, I mean, the prevailing theory out there for the last episode is that Data has used this emotion chip because he says about his maid that she makes him laugh. So I think that's...
okay, we can't keep talking about the last episode.
Well, we're just talking about like the arc of the,
but I thought
of the
about
show.
That. Yeah. So
I think basically the implication is that sometime after this episode, and you know, Jeff hasn't seen any of the movies yet, so we're just going off what's in the show.
I agree that is implied because he said that is when my ears perked up. All of a sudden in that scene, he was like, "Oh, she's always made me laugh," and I was like, "Data, you laugh now?"
And we'll get to that later, but his performance of that seems much more emotional. So it seems like at some point the Data from that future in this episode. The last
just
episode
even in the way he sits, though, I thought that it was interesting that he was sitting cross-legged, like like with he looked much more like a human being. In those scenes. So, I mean, I know that he's always growing and changing, and that's part of his neural net makeup. Right?
Yeah.
But, anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that I dislike this episode. It's just that I find lore so interesting, and they just did not really...
They didn't use him
explain what he was doing besides he just wants power and control and just wants to fuck with people. But they didn't really set up why he was doing it or how it came about. And all of those things I thought would have been a more interesting story than what we saw on screen. So I was a little disappointed by it. Right. Hey, Paula, what's up? How's it going?
Effing lore again.
I know, fucking lore. Waynesy, what's up, dude? Welcome. Sean says, Data rocks, so does lore. And Data's and Lore's dad can't spell his name. Dr. Sung, his name, Brent Spiner, is a great actor. I remember him on an old show called Night Court. That's right. He was on Night Court. Totally.
Night Court.
Yeah, he was a recurring guest star on Night Court.
Oh, cool.
That's where a lot of people saw him first.
Cool. I know Brent Spiner from ID4 Independence Day.
Of course. Yeah. Oh my God, he's so good in that. I met Brent Spiner. I've told that story at some point on the show. But it was very exciting.
Stop bragging.
I will never stop bragging about me and Brent Spiner. Okay, episode 2. As alien dignitaries visit the ship, Picard's shuttle crashes on a desolate planet where he meets a woman who has been stranded there for 7 years. So this is the episode where there's Picard crash lands on this ship, and this woman is pretending she's trying to help him, but very obviously trying to keep him locked away in this ship. And it's very creepy.
Doesn't he have like a thing in him, like in his chest or something? I vaguely remember.
Yeah, that
he had
rings
some kind of
bell.
Injury or something. Shoot.
Yeah. Well, basically, there's these aliens who are pretending to be things they aren't in order to test the crew, and this is part of that. Like, there's also these aliens on the ship who are like, one's trying to get Worf mad so he can see his emotions.
Yeah, that was a real dick move.
Yeah,
I thought that was very sneaky. I don't like that. You shouldn't treat people like that.
Yeah, I mean, yo, Evan's here. What's up, Evan?
Hey, Evan.
Congratulations on your 100th episode. Very cool that it's come full circle. 2 years later to you two talking about STNG again. Here's to 100 more. Awesome, dude. Welcome. So glad you're here. Restriction field to help heal his ribs. Thank you, Justin. Yeah, so that's what was happening.
That's what was happening.
Yeah, so I like this episode just fine, but it's a little slow, and
it took a while.
Yeah, I really like the end. I really like the idea that these aliens have been abusing our crew the whole time, but in the end, our crew is willing to say, oh, I understand that you're just trying to learn and you're going about it a different way, and what you've done would be akin to a crime in our culture, but you're from a different culture, and we have to give you the benefit of the doubt and still have positive relations.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. You met Brent Spiner, Jesse. I'm jealous. Yeah. Stop bragging.
He was very nice.
But what's it called? Yeah, that is cool. I liked that episode, but yeah, it was a little bit slow. The lady in it was trying to annoy me. I was like, dude, come on, just let him go.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't have too much to say about this one.
Me neither.
Next up is Interface, episode 3. LaForge uses a virtual reality probe to explore a wrecked ship inside a gas giant, but he's preoccupied by the disappearance of his mother's ship.
I remember this one. I started watching it a while ago, like after the the last episode that I did with you, and then I didn't watch it after like 5 episodes. So some of these I'm like trying to like.
Yeah. This one is this is another one that I feel is okay, but like not that special or memorable. I mean, it's actually
fuck you, Daniel. Just kidding. I love you.
Wubba lubba dub dub, indeed, sir. Yeah, I feel like the whole subplot about Geordi's mom has died, but he doesn't believe it because he's seeing her in these visions. It's really awkward. It's really uncomfortable. Yeah. It's an uncomfortable plot. And like everyone else is trying to tell him that his mom is dead, but he's seeing her and believes she's alive.
Yeah.
But I believe she is actually dead, the whole time. And it's just kind of a bummer.
It is.
It's like a rough way to lose a parent.
Yeah. But, it's also really real, like, I don't know. I didn't know what to think. It made me sad, I guess.
I do like getting to see Geordi's eyes in this episode, because when he's interfaced with the probe that he's like, I mean, they show him like walking around this other ship, but he's really a probe looking around.
Right.
Interfaced with it.
That stuff was cool. I loved that tech. That was really cool.
Yeah, I enjoyed that a lot.
Yeah.
But besides that, I feel like I know what they were trying to go for with this one, but I didn't really feel the emotion of it. So for me, there's like a little bit of a slump in the beginning of season 7. Mm-hmm. I mean, those 2 episodes included, but we're like very much out of the slump in episode 4, which is Gambit Part 1. While investigating Picard's apparent death, Riker is captured by pirates pillaging Romulan archaeological sites. Let's do these 2 together. So let's
this is where it starts getting real good.
Yeah, so episode 5 is part 2. Picard and Riker try to find out what the pirates want while the Enterprise pursues them. I adore these episodes. Like this 2-parter is one of my favorite 2-parters of the show. Like the whole idea of getting to see this kind of underbelly of the universe is really fun.
Also, I just love how everyone's like, haha, I'm not who I say I am. Like 3 different people.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, like everyone on that ship is not who they say they are.
Freaking faker. Like everyone's just a faker.
Yeah, I really liked the production design of the ship, like the pirate ship. And actually the woman who was the guest star, let's see, what's this actress's name?
The Romulan lady?
Robin Curtis, I believe is her name. Yeah. She plays a character in several of the Star Trek movies. Let's see. I'm sure it's Robin Curtis.
Thank you. My lipstick is in sun.
Yeah, so I really like that this is another one where they're like searching for an ancient device.
Right.
I love that kind of shit. I know
I
it annoys
love
you
how
a little
it
bit.
ended up being. It does annoy me, but there was a lot more going on in this than, like we were saying before, like it's more about the character development. So like I did like how it ended up being a weapon that was like, no, you have to like the person, like the target has to be like trying to fight you if you're gonna, if it's gonna work.
If you let go of your anger, it can't hurt you.
It can't hurt you. Yeah,
I thought that was such a cool idea.
That was really cool.
Yeah,
I liked that a lot.
I really liked seeing these different personalities come out of our main crew, especially Picard.
Yeah,
I think Galen was the name that he was using.
Galen, I think so. Yeah,
and I wonder if like Galen is like, if Picard went on a chat room and he wanted to be anonymous, like that's his persona, is Galen,
Like he's been using it for years.
Nicholas says, I just realized how great your shirt is. Andy gave me this shirt. I love this shirt.
It's a great shirt.
It's an amazing Star Trek shirt.
It's very good.
Yeah, so I mean, I have like no complaints about this one. I love seeing Riker be all, bratty.
It's so much less surprising from him though. I feel like I've seen him be like that before, He's always doing that.
Yeah,
and he's trying to instigate a fight,
Totally.
But Picard like being like a slimy dude, like
it's so really fun. New. Yeah, you've never seen really that before. Cool. Yeah. There's a couple moments this season where you see sides of Picard you've never seen, and I love that they're doing that like this deep in the show. Easton, what's up, dude? Welcome. Okay, let's see. Moving on. What's
also,
up,
I really
Allie?
liked
Welcome,
that.
Allie.
I really liked the Romulan lady too.
Yeah,
she was she acted that part really well, and I really liked it.
Totally. I loved how Riker and Picard both found ways to kind of join the crew, like make the crew trust them and find ways to find a purpose among this crew.
Yes, that and like it worked, because they're both natural leaders.
You just hit yourself in the face.
Is my lipstick okay?
Yeah, no, it's
okay,
great. Good. It's great.
What's it called? Yeah, I like how. Sorry.
That's okay. You can talk about that on here. That's fine.
I got a little high.
Allie loves your lipstick too.
Thank you. What's it called? I always talk about this in almost every episode, but I love how the training kicks in with chain of command stuff and how nobody blows their secret when they're on the Enterprise. They're just like, okay, I guess this is what we're doing now. And like nobody blows anybody's cover.
Right.
And they just act like they're being hijacked. And
nobody
says, Jean-Luc, what are you doing? You know? Like
it happens again in the second to last episode with Ro, where they just trust each other. In that case, it wasn't necessarily deserved, but they all trust each other, and then they can use a look to tell each other what to do.
Yeah.
And I love that so much.
Yeah, it's so good. They're like a family. It's been 7 years of them like fighting side by side, even though they're not really fighters, but
Totally. But they fight a lot.
I know. Isn't that weird? It's an exploration vessel and they're always fighting people.
There's a lot of nasty dudes out there.
But anyway, I guess it'd be a pretty boring show if they weren't. But
there's this complaint levied against Star Trek a lot where the crew don't argue, like the crew don't have interpersonal issues, so all the drama has to come from outside of the crew,
right? Which
I don't even think is necessarily that true, but it's something that Star Trek Discovery is trying to do away with, and I think that it is an awkward way to work a Star Trek show. I think like seeing people get along is so cool. Like that's you never see that on TV.
We don't need more conflict on a team. We need we need to see people getting along. We need, it's a thing that could happen, especially in a race, in a future that's like supposedly more utopian than our current future.
Yeah. It's like people, when they get mad, they're willing to say, I'm upset and I'm sorry that I let that, dictate my behavior. I'm going to go see the
counselor because this person made me really mad.
Yeah.
What?
And I love Troy's character because of that, like because she is the person who can kind of absorb and stop all of these negative feelings that are happening around her. It's really
she at least
cool.
Encourages people to understand each other for sure.
Sean asked about the Orville, which I actually really, really, really like.
I haven't seen
the doctor from Voyager was on the Orville. I've been watching that show. I love it.
I want to. I just haven't started it.
It's like what's his name? Seth MacFarlane. It's like he's I see in this show like someone like me who has always wanted to be on Star Trek The Next Generation, and he has the resources to make his own show that's just like it and put himself in it.
That's awesome.
Plus dick and fart jokes. So it's really, I really like it.
It's a pet project.
Yeah, it's a little hit or miss, but like when it's good, it's great. I really enjoy it. Okay, next up we've got...
I'll be the judge of that.
Episode 6, Phantasms. The crew helps Data investigate whether his dream program begins suddenly generating nightmares. Meanwhile, Picard attempts to avoid attending a boring Starfleet banquet.
That's a hell of a B story. I love that.
I know, it's crazy. But yeah, so like basically something's going wrong with the ship, and it's also being manifested in Data, where he's starting to have these crazy nightmares that are so intense.
Yeah. Isn't somebody like trying to murder him or whatever?
Well, he stabs Troy because he was like cutting a cake in his nightmare.
And then she had like a little mouth.
This little mouth. Yeah. Ooh. Oh my God. Yeah. Justin loves this one. I love this episode.
This one's messed
up. This episode is really creepy and scary.
Yeah.
You get like Crusher drinking out of Riker's head with a straw. You get like the phone inside of Data's body.
That was so weird.
Yeah, this like goes darker than the show tends to go.
Yeah,
like they go this dark every once in a while, like season.
But it's always like, whew.
Like season 1 when they fight those crazy monsters that are in like they like what's that guy's name? I don't remember. You remember when like there's those bugs that are in people's heads in season 1, and then there's like the mother that's living inside of that one dude, and they like shoot him and he explodes. Yeah. I mean, that's pretty gross. But
total Halloween episode. Yeah.
Cellular peptide cake with mint frosting, says Justin. Yeah. I think that every time they go into Data's psyche, they do like really cool things with it.
It's really cool. I love all the Data episodes though.
Yeah, me too, for sure.
But yeah, the imagery that they use to like convey a dream in that is really good, and it's like more realistic than a lot of like dream sequences in a lot of different shows. You know, I feel like how the scene just changes suddenly, and it like doesn't surprise Data because it's his dream.
Totally,
you know?
Dream
like,
logic.
Yeah, it's dream logic. So it's really, they do a really good job at portraying that, I think.
Dan says that Justin and I are watching this on the projector and y'all look great on the big screen.
Oh,
that's
thanks
nice.
for saying a bunch of stuff about how I look and not, you know, about the content of the podcast.
I don't mind.
I'm just kidding. you know I love it when people talk about how I look.
I know. I know.
I tried to do that really quickly, but it didn't work.
I love how they set up last season that Data was going to start dreaming, and they they set up last season how Data dreams now, and then they mention it a bunch throughout the rest of the show
because it's part of what he does now. He
yeah,
has a dream
totally.
Program, and he's like, "Should I run the dream program?" Like,
yeah,
I think I will.
And I love the fact that he has nightmares. I mean, what a great idea for a story. It's something I don't know. It's so obvious, but I don't know if I would have thought of it.
Yeah.
Like, what if like Data all starts having these crazy nightmares now?
Always. Gosh, I didn't think about that.
Justin says, all thanks to Bashir. Yeah, Bashir was in the episode where Data activated his dreaming circuitry, right? In season 6. I believe that's correct.
Right.
That's ringing a bell.
That happened.
Oh, Sean is talking about Lal, Data's daughter. Yeah, that episode was amazing. Mm-hmm. Her name is Lal. It's like LOL. But I think it's spelled
she did make me laugh a lot.
L-A-L-L?
I think it's L-A-L-L, right?
I think so, yeah. So yeah, I love this episode. I mean, this is stuff where it feels like the show's kind of firing on all cylinders. Like the actors are so comfortable. You are distracting me so much. I'm trying to form a complete sentence. Stop it.
I'm sorry.
I don't even know what I was saying.
I shouldn't get high before I come to these things.
We're learning these things now. All right, moving on. Dark Page. Loxana Troy visits the Enterprise, but she's preoccupied by a dark secret she has carried for years.
I cried real tears in this one.
So did I.
I was like laying on my stomach, watching it on my phone, and there's like little like teardrops on my phone. Like I was like, that is so sad. I'm gonna throw up.
Yeah, this is one that I didn't like as a kid. And then coming back to as an adult, I cried.
Yeah, dude.
I was like, this is so good.
Well, we're like at an age where our friends have kids, you know, like
totally.
It's like real, you know, like damn, that would suck. I feel so bad for Loxana in this too. And guest starring Kirsten Dunst.
Thank you, Justin. That's
so
true.
Good.
Yeah.
She's a really good actress.
You think so?
Yeah, I think so.
I have like almost no opinion on that at all.
Really?
I've never disliked her.
You're not a Bring It On fan?
I've never seen it.
I figured out what my podcast is going to be about.
What's it called?
It's just called Discussing Bring It On for an hour every week.
Title needs work, but I think the concept is solid. Cool. Yeah, so basically we discover that that Deanna Troi had a sister that she never knew about because she died, and her mom has kept this a secret. Her mom blames herself. It was an accident where her sister died.
Horrible accident. Yes. Also in Eternal Sunshine. I was going to mention that actually.
Yeah, I did like Kristen Dunst in that movie.
She's just a good actress.
And I liked her in the Spider-Man movies just fine, but the third Spider-Man movie was so bad. I forgot about that. So Troy discovers that she had this sister that she never knew about. But it's really interesting how Troy is so composed throughout this whole thing because she's kind of holding it together so her mom will get the support she needs.
Right.
Which I really loved.
Right. I feel I relate a lot to that because I hope my mom's not watching, but my mom sometimes has like stress issues and stuff like that. And there's a lot of emotional labor that comes that goes into calming her down and stuff. Like she's got heart issues and like, I actually really related to this one on a personal level, just trying to keep my mom in check, and then like, sometimes feeling like it's a lot for me, but I have to like keep my composure. And anyone who does a lot of emotional labor in their lives can probably relate to that also. Like,
there's something so real about like when someone close to you is hurting, the desire to like put down anything you're feeling and just help them,
right,
and deal with it later.
Yeah.
And it was I love that Troy does that in this episode. It's so cool.
It's just so hard when it's somebody that you care about. Like Troy often helps people, and not that she doesn't care about those people, but they're not family, so like when there's somebody that you really care about and you feel their pain, but you have to just set it aside and do what you can to help that person. It's like, it's legit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
thank you.
I always wanted to hear Troy's mom's manservant speak and say, "You rang," because he's Lurch.
Is he?
Yeah, Lurch in the Addams Family movies.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Yeah, I also love that this is the only time we ever see a serious Lwaxana Troy.
Yeah.
She's always been so like buoyant and joyous. And she's always just like so chatty and so energetic and such a strong, powerful character.
Yeah.
Just to see her break down. And she actually goes into like a coma of pain in this episode.
And she's so guarded, like as a character, that like even her subconscious was like, no, dude, get out of here. Like, I don't want help. Leave me alone.
Yeah, which is crazy because she's the most open person we've ever seen on the show. Like, she has no boundaries except for this one thing that she's locked away so tight that even like as an empath, no one else knows about it. On like a planet of empaths, like it's something that she's just kind of hidden from herself so that it wouldn't be present.
That is just some repressed memory shit right there. Like,
I would imagine that if you live in a society where everyone can hear each other's thoughts, because Troy is only half Betazoid, so she's empathic, but I believe full Betazoids can read each other's thoughts as well. So like just being on the planet, everyone knows everything about everybody else.
That must be so loud.
I know, right? but it makes the whole episode work so well to know like how deep she would have had to lock this down to keep it a secret from her family and from even herself at this point. It's like it's like something from a bad dream. It seems like
it's a full-on repressed memory. That's like a thing that people do.
Totally.
It's messed up.
Justin, I totally agree. She has some great serious moments with Odo and DS9. That's such a good episode. Sorry. Are you gonna watch DS9 now?
We'll get to that.
Okay. So yeah,
she also has some great moments in TNG though. Like anytime she's had to be serious, I was always very impressed. But it's never for like almost a whole episode like that,
Totally. Yeah, I mean, she's a really great actress. Like, she's the first lady of Star Trek, and I really appreciate that the last time they bring her back for this show, they do something like really intense with it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Because she's always looking for a man whenever she comes to the Enterprise. There's been so many episodes where she shows up and she's just like looking for a man. There was an episode called Manhunt that was about her looking for a man. But this is like her dealing with real trauma, and that's really effective. Yeah. You loved her telling Riker off, Paula.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
And she got real with him too. She's like, all you ever do is mess with my kid. Like, leave her alone. Like,
yeah. Totally. Oh yeah, that moment was great.
Yeah. She's like, she would have found somebody if it hadn't been for you just like hovering around.
Totally.
All the time. And I'm like, girl, tell it.
Which is like kind of true.
Yeah, for real.
And they really go into that this season with Worf.
They really do.
We'll get there. I know. I love it. I love it so much. Justin says Majel Barrett is the original #1. That's true on the pilot of the Star Trek series.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Cool.
She was #1.
That's awesome.
It's very cool.
That's dope.
Yeah, it was super cool.
I love that.
There's no like #1 throughout the show. I mean, Spock is the science officer and the first officer, but in the pilot, which takes place before Kirk even had the ship, it wasn't even aired originally.
Right.
She was #1 in that episode. And then they cut that up and put it into episodes of the show that they released later as like flashbacks as a way to save money. But they did a really good job of it. So
that's cool.
It's really cool. You should watch the original series too.
I don't think I will.
I just watched an episode of Babylon 5 recently where Majel Barrett was in it. Because there was this sort of feud between DS9 and Babylon 5, and it was sort of a peace offering.
Oh, really?
Like the first lady of Star Trek appeared on Babylon 5.
Oh, wow.
It was weird because like the part, it wasn't like a very meaty part. And she was very kind of deadpan the whole time. And I'm so used to seeing her be so vibrant. Yeah. But I don't know, it's still cool to see her. Okay, moving on. Next episode, episode 8, is Attached. After escaping imprisonment on an alien world, Picard and Beverly find that their thoughts are connected by brain implants.
So good. I love this one.
This is one of my favorites of the season, for sure.
I love it. So much good stuff. I like... Imagine having to read somebody's thoughts all the time. And like, there's a point in it when she thinks something and Picard gets like annoyed with her and she's like, okay, but I didn't say it. Like, you know, like you can't hold me responsible for that because I didn't say it, you know, like that's just how it has to work, you know, like basically. And he's like, you're right. Like you couldn't help but think the thing that you thought, like you have no control over that. Yeah.
There's totally a difference between thinking something and saying something.
Yeah. And so I like that she had to like mention that difference, you know, and we had to, you know, as well, like I was like, well, yeah, there is a difference between thinking something and saying something. And you know, I like that she drew that line and they just adapted to it fairly quickly. And I just really like how they did that in this episode. Yeah.
So as Picard and Crusher slowly start to hear each other's thoughts, they do such a good job of explaining the mechanics of what's happening and how much they can hear and whether or not it's coming and going or if it's just there all the time. Like, they just did such a good job of presenting all of the weird sci-fi elements of this story, which then leads up to this huge emotional moment where Picard reveals that he's been in love with her this whole time.
I am so glad that they finally addressed that.
I know,
because me too. That tension kind of goes away for a few seasons. I feel like. Yeah. Like they really leaned into it in the first couple. I feel like, and then they were like, okay, we're not going to talk about that for a while. So I'm glad that they finally addressed that in this final season and like didn't just leave us hanging. You know, like with that, at least they like did something with it. Yeah.
Hey, Swaggernaut, welcome. Thanks for joining us. Yeah, one of my favorite things is that it's not Crusher that's been carrying a flame for Picard. It's the other way around. Because in the first season, they make it seem like Crusher has this massive crush on Picard and he's shutting it down.
So typical.
Yeah.
Like you see it all the time.
Totally.
And I'm glad that they changed it. I mean, they made it so that it was about Picard feeling guilty because his best friend was married to the person that, you know, he fell in love with. And like, you know, when he died, you know, that must have been so hard because what are you going to do? Move in on your dead best friend's lady? Like, it's messed up, you know, like, and he probably felt really bad about it. So I just really loved all of that.
He just like closes out that part of his like emotions for her and just refuses to acknowledge it until she finds out because she gets to look in his brain. And I mean...
And he goes for it at the end of the episode.
Goes for it, totally.
He's like, you know, like, I may as well. And she's like, ooh, I gotta go.
Yeah. I love everything about it. I think it's so cool.
Yeah.
It's definitely not what you would expect. It casts their whole relationship in a different light that actually helps it make more sense than it ever made before.
Yeah.
And I think it's just really good writing that ties their relationship together in a way that is so satisfying for me.
Yeah. I loved it.
Yeah.
She's such a good actress.
Yeah.
I really love her. I do.
Justin says, get your shit together, Kesprit. That's the planet that they're on where there's like these two sides of the planet that hate each other.
God, they were being so annoying.
Yeah.
And I'm like, both of your towns suck. Like, chill out. And they really messed up their chances to get into the Federation too. That was some dumb bullshit they were trying to pull.
I don't think they allow whiny jerks into the Federation.
Like, serious. Like they were trying to put their best foot forward, but all they did was act all hella paranoid and weird the entire time. It's like, you guys, we're definitely not calling you back.
Yeah. Paula says, I enjoyed the way they called out that planet for immature and paranoid leadership.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
I love that they had the guy in his quarters with all these crazy devices.
Yeah, dude, that was bonkers. Yeah. I would not want to hang out with somebody like that.
No, and he like doesn't trust anybody or any of their devices. I mean, who wrote this one? Oh, this was written by Nicholas Sagan, who's Carl Sagan's son. I think he wrote a couple this season.
Cool.
And directed by Jonathan Frakes.
Cool.
Who's Riker. I mean, this is like a really great example of why I love season 7 so much is because they do these types of episodes where you get to have these main characters tell you what they've been thinking and feeling this whole time that they've never told you before.
Yeah.
It's so special.
It's great. And it's such a good way to get a lot said in one in one episode too.
Totally.
Which is, I like that as a writing device in this universe.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. Justin says, did you know that Gates McFadden also did the choreography in Labyrinth? Yes, I have heard that.
What?
Dancing Doctor. Yeah.
That is so cool. I love her even more now.
Yeah. Sean says, I can't think of the guy who played the part, but I was like, Q, that's John Delancey. He was like Loki, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Laugh at him just fucking with the crew. Totally.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. I agree. You were really lukewarm on Q at first.
I like him a lot now.
I said it forced.
Yeah, that's cool. I understood.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You had the issue with him being a god character.
I didn't like him in the first place, but I like him now. Yeah, but I've grown a lot since then. I don't really have that much of an issue with that. Probably doing these podcasts helped me realize that.
Plus, he's written better and better as the series goes along.
Absolutely. Oh, he's great in the last episode.
He's so good.
I can't wait to talk about
I know.
it.
I'm so excited.
Yeah.
Okay, next up, episode 9, Force of Nature. Paula says, use the forced, Jesse. Okay, Force of Nature. Investigating the disappearance of several ships, the Enterprise discovers 2 scientists who claim that warp drive is destructive to the fabric of subspace.
The global warming episode.
Yeah.
That's how I see it.
Totally. That's absolutely what it is.
Yeah.
It's like this thing that you've been doing that you never thought twice about has environmental repercussions that are very dangerous that we need to be thinking about.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Climate
change in space. The biggest thing that comes out of this is the warp restrictions, which are in place throughout the rest of the series.
That's so real to me. They're like, well, we're not going to stop using warp, so
yeah.
So we'll just put some restrictions on it.
Yeah, we'll mitigate the risk a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like we're still using garbage, but if we recycle some of it, we're better.
That's to me is just so like timely.
I agree. Yeah. I am not wild about the melodrama of this episode because there's the brother and sister team and the sister sacrifices herself to get her point across.
Needed to chill out. Like, yeah, I guess it needed to happen to move the plot along or something, but
yeah. It bothered me that the crew wasn't willing to listen until she killed herself, It doesn't.
That's why Geordi has this whole crisis over that. He's like, "Damn, dude.
Yeah,
like, I should have said something, or I should have at least been like chill about hearing her out."
Yeah. It just didn't seem. It didn't seem like our characters. It seemed like they would have listened to her more. There's this whole defensiveness from Geordi also. I mean, Geordi's like the chief engineer, so he's a little defensive when someone tells him like
that's not the first time he's been like that.
Yeah, like this thing that you are in charge of could be harmful to everybody. Hey, Jamacion, what's up, dude? Sci-Fi Saturday, I like it.
Ooh, cool hashtag.
Justin says, I always wondered about what happened to the trilithium waste produced by warp reactors. Yeah, man. Don't we all?
I guess we just don't talk about it, just like now.
It probably smells like farts.
I feel like it would probably taste like strawberries or something delicious. And like,
I don't think you should eat trilithium waste
that's what makes it even worse. Like,
Dana, welcome. Hi, Dana. How's it going? Okay, so I do like the whole plot of warp restrictions, and I don't remember this being touched on in other shows. I think that maybe at some point they just solved this problem. Because, I mean, Justin, correct me if I'm wrong but like, I don't remember them talking about this on DS9 or on Voyager. I mean, on Voyager, like, they're shot across the galaxy and they're just trying to get home. Like, that's the premise of the show. So they're just, like, going at max warp the whole time, I think.
In the end of the 7th season...
Yeah.
The last episode, even the 25 years later flash forwards,
the warp 13,
they go crazy fast.
Yeah,
and they're not supposed to go past like 5. So I'm thinking they solved it. That was the first thing that I thought of.
Totally,
because they were, for the rest of the season, they were really good about the warp restrictions. It gets mentioned several times,
many times.
Yeah,
which is super cool.
They're like, we got permission to go like to like warp 8 or whatever. And
yeah,
like, cool, let's do it.
Totally.
So
I really enjoyed that. I'm so glad they only did it for one season.
Yeah.
Because that would have gotten so old. It's like, oh my God, this massive thing is happening. We have permission to go warp 8. Let's do it. You know, instead of just like warp 8, engage.
It would have sucked for the entire show, but it was really great for one season.
Yeah.
Agreed. And because it really just brought us into the universe, and it really gave us some continuity. And but yeah, I think that they probably just solved it.
Yeah, I'm sure at some point they did.
Because it was within this season that they just were like maximum warp or whatever.
Yeah.
So
Dan says Jeff needs one of those sportscasters headsets with the mic attached.
I for sure do. I'm shocked that you
actually
haven't.
called you Jeef, which I really like.
Yeah, that's my name now, Jeef.
Now you have transwarp and coaxial warp that could be developed over those 25 years. Totally. Yeah, or spore drive. Motherfucking spore drive.
Jeef.
You're Jeef now.
Yeah, I'm Jeef.
I'm sorry.
No, my friend Rocky coined that name.
Jeef?
Yeah.
Oh, really? I like it. I like it.
It's for real now. I'm like Puffy. Like I just have like, I'm just going to change it now to Jeef. You heard it here, folks. Yeah. You heard it here first, folks.
Jeef engineer. Oh, yeah.
Jeef for Prez.
Sean says one thing that always bothered me is the Romulans and Klingons had cloaking, but the Federation didn't. There's the
Federation
treaty
has a treaty.
The Treaty of Algernon, I believe.
Yeah.
Where the Federation, like, in order to stop war, you know, like continuing
like
war, they make a treaty
thing. It's a good faith thing. They're like, we're never gonna hide our presence from you. You will always know that we're there.
Yeah, and that is developed a lot in Deep Space Nine, which is super cool. And I love the fact that in the future scenes in the last episode, they show the Enterprise having a cloaking device, right?
Yeah.
Did I make that up? That happened, right?
That happened.
Yeah.
It was the Enterprise.
Yeah.
And
like refitted, retrofitted Enterprise.
Are you talking about the last episode again?
Yeah.
Admiral Riker.
Admiral Riker, totally.
Invokes cloaking.
Justin says 60 years of peace due to that treaty. Paula says it's a black hat, white hat thing. Good guys don't hide. That's interesting.
Ooh.
Yeah. And, you know, we'll get into that more when we get into the Pegasus, which is coming up.
Yeah, let's go back to that for sure.
Yeah. Next up is Inheritance, episode 10. Data meets Juliana Tainer, former wife of Dr. Noonien Soong and Data's quote-unquote mother, but she holds a shocking secret that even she doesn't know she carries.
I love this one.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. I just remember this actress from Lost. I mean, I remember her when I watched Lost. I remembered her from this, now when I watch this again, I'm like, she was in Lost, which was
weird. She was great, though. I really liked her.
Yeah.
She's very pretty.
Yeah. I mean, the crux of this episode is that this woman claims to be Data's mother. She was married to Dr. Soong and helped design Data. But then we find out towards the end that she's actually an android also, but she doesn't even know it.
She doesn't know it.
Yeah. Data finds this hologram of his dad, which I loved.
That was cool, but it was kind of cheap. Like,
really?
Is he dead or what? We're always seeing him. Like, he's like, I cleverly.
He's like the old man from Into the Woods.
Yeah.
When at first I appear, I seem mysterious.
He's like, dude, what's going on with you? You had the foresight to just leave little messages to your son, like literally everywhere.
I bought that completely. He's a fucking cybernetics genius. He can program an interactive hologram, no problem.
Okay. I guess you're right.
Yeah. I love how Data figured out that she was an android before he found out for sure by watching her like play violin or viola and it being like exactly the same.
The exact same, like,
yeah. And how her eye blinking pattern was the same as his.
Yeah.
I love stuff like that.
It's like designed to look random, but
yeah,
only he would be able to see that it wasn't.
Yeah, totally. I love when they go into the nitty gritty details of what it would be like to be an android.
Right.
You know, like to have a positronic brain and to have this like mechanical body that is governed by algorithms.
Yeah. He's probably just looking at people literally all the time and like noticing every little detail about them, but he does all of these things simultaneously. Yeah. Which to me is a trip. Like, you know. He
must have such a good sense of smell. He probably smells all of our farts.
Yeah, and he doesn't care.
Even if it was like yesterday.
It's not bad for him.
He's like, Riker walks in and he's like, Riker farted 3 times yesterday.
Yeah, he knows
wonder.
that. Yeah, he probably knows.
Yeah. Justin says Brent Spiner's favorite actor to work with is himself.
I believe that.
What's the difference between an android and a robot, says Dan? An android is way more complicated.
And a robot's a slave.
Well, I mean, yeah. There's like... That's a whole debate, Jeff. Yeah, I mean, my understanding of the distinction is that an android is meant to look and act human as well as like a robot could,
a robot
be like
does
Terminator.
A job, right?
Yeah. Whereas like an android, well, not necessarily has feelings, but is like more self-aware and is more of a complete being. What do you guys think? What did they say?
Yeah,
in
what
Dark Matter,
do you
Justin?
guys think?
Yeah, let us know.
Justin's got hella opinions.
Which is, Justin, you're being very helpul, and I really appreciate it. Filling in our memory gaps.
What do you think? What's the difference, you guys, between a robot and an android? I feel like androids kind of act a little more independently, regardless of them having feelings or not. Whatever universe you want to look at.
I mean, in Star Trek, I think the
there's a certain
distinction...
amount of AI involved, you know?
In Star Trek, I think the distinction is the positronic brain. Which is more
and I
so
think that would
advanced.
be the distinction to an effect in almost anything where anything's called an android, like that higher form of sophistication.
Thinking. Yeah,
I guess like.
Yeah, are androids specifically mechanical, or can they be made of organic material? Yeah, I mean, I
don't have the science to back anything up.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that maybe Data has, like inorganic skin that is made to act like organic skin. I don't know. That's a good question.
Thank you, Sean. I'm sorry if you, yeah.
Oh, thanks, Sean. We'll see you soon, hopefully.
Bye, Chief.
Thanks for hanging with us.
Yeah.
Justin says you got the definition right, but yeah, they basically have human form but are not necessarily sentient. For robots, you're saying. Or androids. What are you saying?
the kind of goes into android and what?
So androids have to have human form, but are not necessarily sentient?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can see that.
I've always thought about it in relationship to the positronic brain just because of Data.
Yeah, I feel like robots are just more... I associate them with more like mechanical functions where they have a job that they do and it's probably only going to be a couple things.
Totally. Paula says the difference is appearance, with androids being made to look like humans on the outside, but with robot-like internal mechanics. Yeah, so I think some consistent things are popping up that like androids are supposed to look and act human.
That's at least consistent. I feel like across different fictional universes.
Yeah.
But yeah, this one's great. I like that she had this mechanism to shut down as soon as she figured something out.
Yeah, totally.
That was brilliant.
Yeah.
And I just really like the idea of Data having a mother because we're always so focused on the father aspect of it. It didn't even occur to me.
I know
that he had a mother, like not even for a second.
Yeah. And then hearing her talk about having to deactivate lore and like Data's awkward like childhood and like teenage years.
Yeah, she talked about him running around naked, which is something babies do.
Yeah, and a full-grown man running around naked. It's great.
That was so funny. But he's like, I can't be embarrassed, but it was a little awkward and like it was just funny.
Yeah.
This is really cute.
Yeah, I like it.
I really enjoyed it. And I really loved them playing their duet together. And he has mom issues, he kind of does.
Yeah.
Because he's like trying to figure out if she's telling the truth. And everyone's like, well, maybe she is, dude. Like, he's like, I don't know. And she's like, well, that's natural. And he's like, no, but really, I don't know. Like, she seems weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I totally forgot I was just going to say.
The modesty subroutine. Yes, exactly.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Paula. That reminds me. She says, I like Data showing selfless humanity and letting her keep the illusion of being human. So that's like the big moral question in this episode. That's
a big step for him, too, I think.
Yeah. Like, for me, like, there's not really a question because if you tell her that she's not human, her programming would break. Like, it seems like she's designed to... Like, she turns off if ever... any evidence of like her being an android
but he gives
comes
her
out.
I guess so.
So I was questioning whether or not it's even possible to tell her she's an android or if her programming might shut down.
No, but I don't know if that still applies once you take that holographic chip out of her.
Oh, really?
That's the impression that I got.
Oh.
Was that no longer applies without that chip in her, and you can tell her and she would just know and have to be miserable for the rest of her life.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. I think that. Do you think they made the right choice by not telling her, letting her to
I
continue to live as a
absolutely
human?
do. I absolutely do, because that just would have been so jarring, I think.
Hey, Ouija Gaming has subscribed. Thank you for subbing. Do you see that little animation? Isn't that cute?
Yeah, that's dope.
I really like
I like your dancing C-3PO.
I know, I love it. It makes me so happy.
So cool.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really conflicted on that one because I feel like truth is so important. Like the first duty of every Starfleet officer is to the truth.
I feel like I'm always on the other side of this debate, and maybe saying this on the internet will someday work against me, but sometimes the truth just isn't the best thing.
Yeah, and I don't
feel
dispute
like
that.
but I feel like anytime I have any conversation to this effect, I'm always like on the side that's like, no, this person doesn't need to know the truth about this thing.
Yeah,
like
I mean,
the Moriarty episode where he takes off in that shuttlecraft.
Right.
That's
a very good.
I was like,
parallel.
No, good. Like
Yeah.
he shouldn't know. Fuck it. Like let him just live out and be happy.
Yeah.
You know, like just. You know, what's the use in telling him otherwise?
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm doing the Matrix trial coming up. Well, actually, we're recording tomorrow, and I've been thinking a lot.
I would like to do a blurb about that. Because
I'd love that.
I have
yeah.
a lot of. I love the Matrix.
I would love that for sure. But I'm thinking a lot about: is it better to be comfortable or live in reality?
So,
you know?
I will talk about this more in that blurb, but with the Matrix also, I'm like, why? What does it matter if consciousness is just in your mind? What does it matter? Why do you need to be out? Fine. Let the robots use us as shitty batteries, by the way. Let them use us as shitty batteries if our consciousness still exists in this universe of, of something that's the exact same thing as living life. Then why? Why do I need to be living in that shitty world? And when I could live in another shitty world where I can have steak if I want to.
Yeah. Totally.
Like,
yeah, I mean, when I was a kid and I saw The Matrix for the first time.
Thank you, Daniel.
When I was a kid, like those questions, the answer for me was always, I would want reality. And as I get older, I question that more.
Yeah, I gave up on reality a long time ago.
Now I just don't know. Don't know.
I just need to live in the way that I'm living right now, and that's fine because I've got my own problems here, and they can't be. Being in any real reality can't give me any easier problems. I'd rather deal with these solvable ones than ones where I'm trying to take down a robotic race that's using me for fuel.
Yeah. I mean, back to the episode, I'm still conflicted. Like, I didn't have a strong sense of what the right thing to do was. Mm-hmm. And I love that they debated it and came to their own conclusion. I thought that was really interesting. What are you smoking?
Am I allowed to do that?
Yeah, go for it.
It's a vape pen from Ponder.
Oh, I love Ponder.
Ponder is a dispensary. If you're in the Seattle area, there's a really great dispensary. Don't really go to Uncle Ike's. That place is terrible. Right now I'm vaping Gorilla Glue.
Oh, nice. That's a hybrid?
It's a sativa.
Oh, it's a sativa.
I don't know if that's going to fuck with your thing.
Yeah, I'm going to stick with indicas. Dan asked about the subscription notifications. So anyone who subscribes, that should dance unless you have your subscription set to private, and then in which case it won't.
Stop being so private, Daniel.
Because it doesn't work. But if you have public subscriptions on your YouTube, when you subscribe, it should pop up with your name.
No, it's not keef. It's an oil cartridge. Just FYI. Something Justin said.
Yeah. Do you want to take 5? I kind of want to pee and maybe smoke a little bit myself.
What are we gonna?
We just leave it running.
All right, cool.
Yeah, I mean, whenever
go pee and I'll still.
Yeah, that's even better.
Here. Yeah,
that's even better.
I'll chill here.
Whenever I game stream, I take breaks and it's fine.
Yeah, for sure.
And I'm gonna stop and save the recording real quick while we're
cool.
So I'll be right back, guys. Hang with Jeef.
Yeah. So a little health break. Exactly, Paula.
Paula's always watching out for my health.
So Jesse's got this Matrix podcast coming up. I kind of wanted to be on that panel because I have a lot of opinions about that. But I do know that one of the things that I really loved about the Matrix when it first came out was like the fashion stuff. Like I legit straight up wore a trench coat to school. And I was like old. I was like 13. And I thought that would be a good idea. Hanging with Jeef. Yes, I don't have any schneef. Yeah, thanks, Nightbot. Hit that like button and show us some support because we're super fun. When I was wearing this trench coat to school, though, shortly after I started wearing that trench coat, the Columbine thing happened, and it was not good. It was not good, and I still wore it, and everyone got super mad at me. But it was really just because I like The Matrix, so I apologize to anyone who may have been offended by that, if anyone from middle school is watching right now. I didn't mean to offend you. Got more Star Wars talk. Just kidding. Star Trek talk coming up. Make sure to check out my music now that Jesse's in the bathroom. I can plug myself. The Great Barrier Reef. Let's see how many more of these you got, guys. I like Beef with Jeef. That one's good too. Why didn't I just pick Jeef in the first place? It rhymes with so many more things. Make sure to check out my music, ratqueen.bandcamp.com. I've got a really cool band. And we're awesome. We're playing a show next Tuesday at the Cauldron in the University District. Jeef Wellington. Actually, I always thought that, yeah, Jeef Wellington is one somebody commented. Who was it? Oh, of course, it was Daniel. If I had Commander-in-Chief, Jeef Washington. Oh my God, these are so great, you guys. I've always wanted to name myself, if I ever started doing roller derby, I would be Queef Wellington. What's going on? Are you trying to be Alexander Hamilton? I don't know. Who is that? I mean, I know who Alexander Hamilton is, but Jeef Hamilton. Yeah. These are great, dude. Jeefless in Seattle. Aw. Not Jesse. Jesse's got Jeef here. Jeef we trust. All hail the Jeef. Brah, brah, brah.
I'm still a big fan of Jeef Engineer.
I know. I like Jeef Engineer. I'm going to go take a whiz, guys. It looks like Jesse Mercury's back.
Yo, we're back. What is that noise? Oh, it's it's the fan of my laptop on this month. What's up?
Can I hit some of that weed?
Yeah, go for it. Totally. All right. Just you and me, guys. Oh, man, so I wrote a new song about Star Trek that I'm really excited about. It's called Beam Me Away. So when I release this podcast, I'm going to edit this down a bit and put in like clips from the episode. And then I want to play that new song on guitar and put it on the end. I used to play music on the podcast all the time, but, like around episode 50 is when I had this like gigantic Lyme disease flare up. And it's just been like taking all of my energy just to get the show out at all. But it's crazy thinking about the fact that at this point, like half of the show was made with me like super healthy and half was made with me like on medical leave. It's been crazy. It's been really weird. But yeah, my energy's picking up recently. It's been nice. So I wrote this new song anyway called Beam Me Away. And it's kind of about a person on a wasteland planet, like looking out in the stars and like wishing they could be out in Starfleet. It's like somehow they know about Starfleet. Like imagine it's like in the Star Trek universe and there's this planet where someone's living in this horrible place and they're just dreaming about like getting to join this group of people that travel the stars and, spread the Prime Directive. I'm pretty excited about it. And I don't know if Evan is still listening or not, but I did sneak in the word wasteland into the song itself, and that's totally for you, Evan. Totally for you. Jefferson Airplane, Benjamin Jeeffin.
Did I hear Jefferson Airplane?
You did hear Jefferson Airplane. Paula, I'm so glad you like this. Yeah, I need to do this more often. I'm working on a way to do Sci-Fi on Trial live. I'm going to do the Matrix episode, and then after that, I'm going to try Sci-Fi on Trial live again, I believe.
Do I pull it out of these joints?
Yeah. There's one that's lit there. That's an indica.
Do I just smoke the joint?
Sure.
Or do you put it in the pipe?
Oh, I just smoke the joint. That's fine.
Cool.
Yeah.
So Johnny does that, and so I don't know who does that.
Oh, yeah. And there's like a little ashtray thing there too. Jeepers Creepers.
Oh my gosh, you guys. I feel so excited that I'm still a subject of conversation over there.
Man, I love when chat gets punny. It's always really fun. Like, I've watched a bunch of like Carl Sagan's Mario videos where that happens. Jeffrey Combs. Yeah, Jeffrey Combs is like the best. He plays Brunt and Shran and several other characters in Star Trek from DS9 onward. Wei-Yun. And then he was in Jeff, have you ever seen Reanimator?
No, I haven't, but I want to watch it. We should watch that.
It's great. It's really great. And Jeffrey Combs is the lead in that too. It's really cool.
I'm smoking some indica right now. It's about to get weird.
We're gonna get weird, you guys. If it wasn't weird already, it's gonna get weirder. Yeah. But yeah, man, yeah, he's in so much good horror sci-fi. He was in The Frighteners, which I love. Have you seen The Frighteners? It was like I think it was a Peter Jackson movie, actually. Give me a topic for a pun. I'm still onto this Jeef thing. I want more Jeef puns.
You know I do. Can I grab another one of those?
Oh, yeah, totally.
Thank you.
We're drinking LaCroix. I was watching Jeef Steak. Nice. I was watching This Is Us last night with Andy, and someone offered somebody a LaCroix water.
A LaCroix.
LaCroix. And I looked it up because I didn't know. It's definitely LaCroix.
It's LaCroix because it's from it's named after a river in that town that everyone already calls LaCroix.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So yeah, I researched this hard. So like,
yeah.
Yeah. So apparently, it's just named LaCroix after the river. So what the local people call it is it's LaCroix, even though technically the pronunciation is LaCroix.
In French.
Nobody says that because
Yeah.
we're not in fucking France.
Yeah.
That's how that works.
Nice.
The end.
Congratulations, everyone. You've just been knowledged.
Brought to you by LaCroix.
Jeef the Star Trek geek.
No, I love it.
Yeah, no offense taken.
Yeah. Do you know what podcast you're on right now?
All right, are we ready? Should we jump back into this shit?
Yeah, let's get in it. I'm ready. Oh, my hair looks so good right now. Girl. All right.
I think you've spent about half of the time watching yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. Here we go. So this is one of my favorite episodes. I say that a lot, and it's always true. This is episode 11, Parallels. After Worf returns from a Batleth tournament, he is the only person who notices subtle changes on the Enterprise.
That's so good.
Yeah.
I loved this one.
Yeah,
and this is when you first see Worf and Troy, and
Yep.
I was like, I didn't know that I wanted something
Right?
for two characters as badly as I want this. Like, I didn't know.
I know.
I had no idea, but that's all I've wanted for the rest of the series after this episode.
Totally.
Like, I've always had issues with Worf. Like, if you go back and listen to all of the other episodes, I always have some Klingon issue or some Worf issue. I'm like, you guys need to chill out with that. And I really, really love that we're seeing Worf in some other conflicts that aren't just Klingon based, you know?
Yeah.
I really loved seeing this side of Worf. I think that I had never thought about it, but somebody like Troy is so great for Worf because he's so like guarded, and she has the ability to like bring, you know, people's feelings to the surface without feeling she's just kind enough and smart enough for him. You know what I mean?
Yeah. They balance well.
Yeah, they balance so well.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, wow, I like Worf now. This is so cool. And Worf has been one of my favorite characters this season.
Yeah.
And I've literally
Nice.
never said that on this show before. Like,
Yeah, totally. Not at all.
Like, I was very, very happy with what they did with him this season. I'm very, very excited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the moment where Worf like gets home to his Is it in his quarters or Troy's quarters? I don't remember. But the moment we're like,
it's his quarters.
It's his quarters, and
so when she goes to sit on his bed, he's
and
like,
she goes on the bed. The moment where like they reveal that they are together is so surprising. Yeah, it's like so surprising. I thought she was
trying to like seduce him or something, and like I don't know what that was.
Because there's just like no lead up to this at all, and then all of a sudden like they're married. I know, I love it. I love it. I know, I'm so into it.
It's so good.
Yeah,
Jeef Impact. I like that one.
Jeef Impact is great.
Yeah. That's like a cool stage name.
Paula says this was great, right down to Data's eye color keeps changing. I noticed that too. It's so weird. It's creepy.
Yeah.
Justin says what's always been weird to me is how Worf's personality changed from TNG to DS9. I really agree with that. I was really frustrated by that.
La, 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 la,
oh yeah, Jeff hasn't seen.
I kind of want to see DS9.
You should absolutely watch it. It's a great show.
We'll see.
It's a great show. Yeah. And Worf becomes well, never mind. I'm not going to tell you anything.
Yeah, don't tell me anything.
Yeah, and Terror from the Jeef, pretty good. I like Jeef Impact a lot.
I like Jeef Impact. That's like a cool stage name.
Yeah, so I love seeing Worf in a technical situation because you don't really think of him as like a technical guy, but he's like the tactical officer.
Yeah,
he's firing the phasers. He knows how to use shit.
Yeah, he's not an idiot either. Like,
right.
Like, at first you don't want to take Worf seriously when he's like jumping around, like because you don't usually see him in these situations where you have to believe him.
Right.
You know what I mean?
He's always the doubter.
He's always the doubter and
never the doubtee.
Yeah. So it's really cool to see him have to use his brain to get out of something, because he's usually the strong man and he's very like hard-headed warrior type person, so it's really cool to have to see him use like his brain because you have to be smart to get through Starfleet. You can't just be an idiot and go through Starfleet. That's not a thing.
You don't become like the security chief of the flagship unless you know how to use all the tools.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
but they don't show him doing that stuff that often. They did it a couple times this season where like I remember he was in engineering at one point and someone said, "Oh, Worf, this thing needs to be done," and then Worf does it.
Yeah, he just does it, and it's really cool. I just
Jeepers Sutherland. That's good.
Oh, I love that.
That's very good.
Yeah.
I imagine good. Dan like sitting there like, Jeepers Sutherland. Yeah. That's what I'm imagining.
Classic Daniel. Oh, so good.
Yeah. And I think what
God, I love Worf this season. I just really do.
I think what sets this episode like way over the top for me is the relationship between Worf and Troy, like planting the seed of the audience wanting that, which they then they tickle it for the rest of the season, and
then they take it away.
But the last
for
episode,
a second. No. I know, but I'm just saying, like. I just
at the end of this episode, yeah, absolutely.
I just love that anticipation of. That's awesome. I love Worf, lead follower, get out of the way attitude. Yeah.
Totally.
Definitely.
Yeah. He's a man of absolutes.
Yeah, he really is. Which is another thing that makes the Troy and Worf thing so fun for the rest of the seasons.
Totally.
Because he's very worried about what Riker would think, Yeah,
and he's nervous.
And it's cute. It's so adorable. And I just love seeing that kind of growth with him. And, I also just love romantic stories. So yeah, I really, really enjoyed this.
Yeah. I also this episode. I adore the rest of this episode too. It's like, as a sci-fi nerd, this is what I love from Star Trek. When you have this crazy situation that is like unfolding one little weird thing at a time and you have to figure it out before the universe explodes.
Oh, so good.
Come on, give it to me all day, every day. That's the last episode is like that too.
Yeah.
It's very similar storytelling to this episode, I think. And then other episodes like Disaster from, I think, season 4, where the Enterprise keeps blowing up over and over.
His attitude gets more tempered by his experiences in TNG, though. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
he grows throughout the whole season, and it's great to see the culmination of that.
He sees
I'm glad that I like the person he became, for sure.
Yeah, he sees the weakness of the Klingon Empire and then the strength of humanity, and I think he starts to
reconcile them,
allow a little more human ethos to kind of enter his brain.
Yeah, well, because he starts seeing the honor.
Yeah, he sees
and
the
that's something
honor
that
in the
he
prime
can,
directive, it
yeah,
seems like.
and then that's something he can very much relate to.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
No DS9 spoilers for Jeff.
Shut up, Justin.
So I love like the slow unraveling of a mystery that this episode has. And I had never heard of like quantum realities before I saw this episode. And now it's like everywhere. I mean, Rick and Morty is built off of this.
Yeah.
And I think maybe even this episode, because I know that a lot of like the current crop of showrunners watch this show growing up and were introduced to a lot of sci-fi ideas from this show. So like all of like the quantum realities in Rick and Morty seems exactly like what they're saying in this episode. It's
absolutely.
Like the further away you get from your reality, the weirder things get until you get to the point where there's like this destroyed society where Riker and Worf are the only people left alive and they're trying to kill everyone else.
Oh my gosh, they had to kill an Enterprise.
Yeah, they had to blow up an Enterprise
one of them.
to stop that Enterprise from like killing other Enterprises.
That's just crazy to me. Yeah, shut your Jeep hole. Jeep is in the Jeep that has a leaf on her seat. Awesome. Parenthood makes him a more thoughtful character. Absolutely. Yeah. And you see that later in the Alexander episode of this season for sure.
Yeah, right at the end of the
season. That's like when he allows Alexander to make his own choice because he's his own man. And if he's going to be a man, he has to be able to make choices for himself. You know?
Yeah, totally.
It's really cool.
Paula says the original series had alternate realities too. That's true. They had the mirror universe, which implies that there's two universes. There's like our universe and like Bizarro universe, where this episode it's like there are infinite universe. Like it's like every choice that you could possibly make spawns a new universe, and there's just like infinite universes everywhere. It's a really interesting idea, and then like watching Worf kind of skating through these, and it makes me actually wonder, like which Worf are we following? Are we following our timeline the whole time? Or are we following our Worf from the timeline of the show the whole time? Or are we following a different Worf and he passes through our timeline at some point? I mean, we don't know.
I don't know, man.
Wouldn't that be weird? If like maybe his first jump to the slightly altered reality was like the cast from our main show and maybe that Worf was different. I remember thinking that this time somewhere along the way because we were on one ship and then they found another ship that said that Worf was theirs. I'm like, that other one must be the Prime universe, right? But who knows?
What is the Prime universe?
Well,
what makes that universe the Prime one?
According to Star Trek canon,
so many questions.
So because there's so many universes in Star Trek, they've actually come up with some like nomenclature to describe what we're seeing. And the main universe is called the Prime universe. Like that's the one where there's one continuity from beginning to end.
That makes sense.
There's also the Kelvin universe, which is in the J.J. Abrams movies. And there's actually questions right now as to whether or not Discovery is taking place in the Prime universe or not. Like the writers have said that they are, but
I don't like any of this. I don't like that. Just chill out with that.
I love
have
this
the shows
shit.
Be the shows, and that's fine. Like,
yeah, I mean, there's also
this goes back to me not needing to know about like.
Well, something cool that I was thinking about recently is
reality bullshit.
I was reading something that said that every time
perspective is the Prime universe. I like that.
Every time there's like a time travel episode, just by time traveling, it seems like that would create a new reality because sometimes there's like slightly changed things when they go back to the future.
Yeah, totally.
Which means that the moment you time travel, like you enter a different quantum reality than you were just in, because when you go back to the future, it's a different reality slightly. I mean, Back to the Future did that.
I'm sorry, but they really distracted me with this stuff. But yeah, everything slightly changes, but that's the thing about the whole quantum universe thing. If like the slightest change just creates a different universe. So
yeah,
it's the butterfly effect.
Yeah,
Ashton Kutcher. No, all right.
I did not see that. Sorry, I'm reloading this page, and Miles is like, okay, come on, bud. Miles is freaking out. Miles wants to be up here.
Star Trek has gone off the G fend.
Okay. Why don't we let's discuss the episode and then check in with chat and go back and forth.
Okay, sorry.
Because it's very
you guys are distracting us.
We keep losing our discussion. I'm imagining myself trying to edit this later. I'm like, oh god, this is going to be hard. Okay, next up is episode 12, the Pegasus. When Riker's first commanding officer comes aboard to aid in the search for the vessel they served on, he is forced to rethink the actions he took at that time. So his old Captain Pressman, played by John Locke from Lost.
I knew it. I couldn't figure out who he was. I was like staring at him the whole time.
Yeah, he returns and they have to go find this experimental ship that they used to serve on, where there was a mutiny, and Riker helped his captain get off the ship and like was not on the side of the mutineers
and covered it up
and helped cover it up.
Yeah.
And over the years, he started to regret it and think that maybe the mutineers had it right.
Yeah.
And it's really
I believe that because John Locke's a dick.
Yeah, he's a terrible dude.
That guy sucks, dude. I hated him.
Yeah. Yeah, he doesn't seem to have the...
I had to look away.
I know. I saw Admiral Asshat, and it was really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I lost my train of thought. That's the danger of looking at chat.
You need to put a piece of paper over chat
and just open it up like every 3 minutes. We'll be in and out. We'll like talk for a second, then we'll come check in with chat.
Yeah,
it's the only way.
He is an asshat, though. I hate that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we really figure out the initial reason why he picked Riker as his first officer in the first place, because he has the ability to.
You mean Picard?
Stand up for himself and stand up for
his
what's
captain.
right.
Yeah.
And stand up for his captain if it's necessary, you know.
But he made that decision based off of like false records because the truth was hidden because of like Starfleet intelligence was working on a cloaking device in secret.
But that doesn't change who Riker became, and it's not like he worked alongside a stranger, you know.
Yeah.
For all this time.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Oh, LeVar Burton directed this one.
Oh, interesting.
Cool.
Yeah. This also has Captain Picard Day.
That was so cute.
Which is adorable.
I love that.
It's so cute. And I love how uncomfortable it makes Captain Picard. It's so great.
Excuse me. And then he like makes them do a Riker Day.
Yeah.
Yeah. We don't get to see that, but
right.
It's implied.
This also like gets into like the Treaty of Algernon, like why don't we have a like a cloaking device, you know, like why doesn't the Federation have one?
That's when we find out about that. Yeah.
Yeah, and the Romulans are stalking them when they're trying to find the Pegasus in that asteroid field.
Oh, I forgot about that.
This episode is cool too.
Yeah,
like, it's just really cool.
It was a lot of stuff was going on.
Yeah, there's like a lot of special effects. There's like the asteroid field. There's the ship that's halfway in the wall inside of a giant asteroid.
Yeah,
it felt a little like Star Wars-ish.
Yeah, I liked that a lot. I had asteroid field stuck in my head during that. It's a Jesse Mercury.
Oh, that makes me really happy.
I'm checking.
Let's do it.
This is why, and that's why you don't fuck around with phasing tech, because half of you will end up inside of an asteroid.
Yeah.
And half of you will end up being in the vacuum of space.
Yeah. So it seems like, I mean, they had orders from Starfleet to test this cloaking device, but it directly violates a treaty. Mm-hmm. And I think that's why a lot of people mutinied, is because they weren't willing to do that.
Yeah, because treaties are there for a reason.
Yeah, and that's a really interesting question. Like, do you listen to your commanding officer, or do you do what you know is right based off of like Starfleet treaties?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's tricky.
But I think that's why Riker and Jean-Luc are so great together, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially when you see whom Riker used to work with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, this helps to explain why Riker didn't take a command when he could, because I think that he doesn't believe that he's ready.
Yeah.
And I think this experience has a lot to do with it.
It explains why he feels like he's not ready, because I didn't quite buy it when he turned down his command. You know?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I always thought that was strange, but I really dug that.
Yeah.
I love this episode. So the last episode of Star Trek Enterprise, they reference this episode of TNG in the most bizarre way. Do you want me to tell you about it?
Yes.
So the premise of the last episode of Enterprise is that Riker is trying to figure out what to do in this situation, like which way to go, and he starts a holodeck program to help him decide. And the holodeck program is the Enterprise crew from this crazy mission that was like one of their last missions. So he's like using... So, I mean, you've been watching the show for 4 years, basically, with these characters, and then Riker uses those characters to help him make this decision from an episode that aired like a decade earlier. It's so dumb. It's really unsatisfying to watch. Everybody hated it. Everyone hated it.
That just takes a lot of momentum out of what's going on, I feel like.
Yeah, they wanted to make like a love letter to the fans, a love letter to Star Trek, by bringing it back to what people really loved about Star Trek, which was Star Trek The Next Generation.
Yeah, that's...
You know?
Cheap.
Make your
own show.
And then like Riker and Troy were in it, and they looked 10 years older.
Yeah.
And they were trying to like slide them back into this episode, It was really bizarre.
No, that's weird.
It didn't work for me
like that
at all.
I don't like it.
It might have been more than 10 years. I actually don't quite remember what year it came out. We have G. Foxworthy.
Yep.
Justin says, I love Picard's reasoning for choosing Riker. I wanted someone who would stand up to me.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
just
totally.
Suck it up and go talk to Troy like everyone else.
Yeah. Yeah, I like the fact that Riker is not quite as solid of a dude as Picard, you know?
Mm-hmm.
As far as like knowing what to do. He seems like more personable and more like emotionally available, but he doesn't seem to know the right thing to do sometimes.
Yeah.
And those are the times where Picard is like really necessary. Because he seems to always know. And actually, a line of dialogue I really loved in that episode we talked about.
The one where they could read each other's thoughts, and
you know what I'm thinking? Yeah,
I was like, no, I know where you're going with this.
Yeah,
he pretends to know what he's doing. She's like, you're just making this up.
Yeah,
and
totally.
He's like, not always, but like, yeah, sometimes I have to look like I know what I'm doing. It's just part of it. Like,
yeah. I
like,
loved that.
Yes.
Yeah, I thought that was so cool.
That.
Yeah, and I liked that it seems like there are some repercussions for this for Riker at the end.
Yeah,
and he really like Picard like dressed him down and did not say. Like usually when you get dressed down at the end of an episode, it's like right before you turn out the right when you're walking out the door, he said, "Oh, and Will, yes, sir, good work." You know, like you did good. Like I'm okay with you breaking the rules because this was necessary, but this time it just like didn't happen.
Yeah, well, because he did something bad. He did a bad thing.
Totally.
You know.
All right. Up next, we have Homeward. Worf's foster brother violates the Prime Directive by saving a group of villagers from a doomed planet.
So his foster brother is in the Baz Luhrmann version of Romeo and Juliet.
Oh, really?
As the Daddy Capulet.
No way.
Yeah, he totally is.
Oh, my God.
Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm like 99% sure. I didn't actually check this, but that's how unmistakable that guy's face is.
Yeah.
But I should change. Nikolai. Yeah.
Yeah, Nikolai. Yeah.
Nikolai. Yeah.
Nikolai Rozhenko. There's a lot I like about this episode. I always had questions about Worf's upbringing after we met his parents.
Yeah.
I mean, these people
They're
raised
such
Worf.
Sweet people.
Yeah, it's so interesting.
I love them.
So getting to meet his brother, getting to learn a little bit about what it was like growing up with a Klingon in the family, you know, like an adopted Klingon. I really enjoyed all of that stuff. The actor in this one that I recognize is this the dude that was like the keeper of the
one
memories.
that discovers that they're in the holodeck.
The one that gets on the Enterprise.
Yeah.
He's in Girlfriend's Guide to Divorce.
Ew.
Which I've been watching with Andy. Which is surprisingly addicting.
Yeah.
But there's slow moments in this episode for sure. Like it's a little on the slower side.
There's some cool stuff that happens, but mostly I'm lukewarm about this episode. I liked seeing some of the backstory stuff, of course. Like that was the most enjoyable part of this episode. I like seeing Worf in a costume. That was fun.
Yeah.
I always think it's funny when Worf is like in a costume of some sort.
And you know that I love when a main character is made up as a different alien than they normally are.
So this one was also a good one for that.
Yeah.
And,
Penny Johnson's in this.
Who?
Penny Johnson. She's on the Orville, and she was also on Deep Space Nine.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. She plays Nikolai's wife.
So the thing that I was going to talk about that is that I felt some questionable morals there.
Oh my God, totally.
Yeah, like
where he impregnated one of the women in a village he was studying, Nikolai.
Yeah, that's fucked up. Yeah. I think that's kind of messed up. Like,
and he can never tell her that he's human.
Yeah, and that's
their baby's going to be half human, and he can never tell her.
Yeah, he's also not for real. Like,
right, he's not that species.
Yeah, he's not that species. They're gonna find out something's up.
Yeah.
When he comes out without a weird nose thing.
Yeah.
And like
totally.
And like, you know, he's kind of in a position. This is like a less advanced civilization.
Totally.
So there's like this weird power dynamic there that like she doesn't know about, and that's like weird.
I totally agree. I was thinking that the whole time.
That's kind of a crime, I think. Like, you know.
I think it should be.
So I was kind of weirded out by that by the end of the episode. I was like, ooh, that's not good. You seemed so just at the beginning of it, like trying to save everyone, but you're going around sticking your dick in the locals and not telling them what's up with that. Like, you know, like that's not cool.
Totally. Yeah. I really took issue with that. There's also a lot about the Prime Directive in this episode where they're going to let this whole society die, you know? Excuse me. Like, according to the Prime Directive, they have to
they thought they did.
Yeah, totally. They left. They thought that they were leaving them to die, and they were okay with that. So
they were okay with that, but
that's they're not. I mean, it was painful for them, but like the Prime Directive says that you can't help them. And I remember being so pissed at the beginning of the episode, but then there's a conversation where they're talking about it, and Crusher's like pushing Picard on it, and they talk about how, like, what if we save this species and they grow up to be like a negatively dominating force in the galaxy? Like, that's on us.
Yeah.
And we can't take the chance. We don't know what's going to happen. If these people can't save themselves, we can't save them either.
Yeah.
Because we can't make that choice. Mm-hmm. And like making the choice to save someone is making that choice for the universe.
Right. I mean, they would have died.
Really compelling.
They would have died if they had no way to get off that planet. That's just how that would have gone, whether or not the, Federation was there. So
right. But what do you think about that? Because like the empathetic part of me can't accept that it's okay to let a whole species die like that.
I don't know, man. That's a big question.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like,
what do you guys think about
there's
this?
Like a logical person in me that just believes, like, I think that the whole Prime Direct, if I were part of a thing, that had that kind of responsibility, then I can see why they would do it, I guess. You know? But I did like the way because I remember thinking that, why don't you just beam them off board, like, on board or something, and like I remember thinking something like that, like there must be something they could do. I know that they've broken the Prime Directive for other stuff like this, right. So like, I don't know, like if I could ever make that decision, but the logical person in me says, yeah, you have to let them die, but I did like how they ended up. I liked the solution that Nikolai came up with. I thought that was a very good solution. And it wasn't until I found out that he had impregnated somebody that I was weirded out, but I thought that was a really good solution. And I didn't buy that there were so many problems with it. Like, once again, the holodeck is fucking up. Like, why can't they get that thing working ever?
Right. That seemed very convenient to the story. Like something happened to fuck up the holodeck right when they're... it was the storms that were affecting the planet. And the reason the planet was being destroyed also affected the Enterprise. Right. And fucked up the holodeck.
Right. I think somebody has something of value to say here.
Yeah. Dan says, I have a really hard time not being a passive observer, and I'm only shaken out of it when I see other people doing it.
Okay.
We have an autocorrect. I don't understand the end of that.
Yeah.
Justin says, I understand Starfleet's reasoning, but then again, the universe is mostly rocks, gas, radiation, and humongous forces we can barely comprehend. Life is rare. When I see you have a hard time not being a passive observer, and I'm only shaken out of it when I see other people doing it.
So you can be passive if you see other people being passive?
Yeah, is that what you're saying?
I think that's what you're saying. I'm also a little high, so it's like I'm having trouble.
It's hard to understand words.
Being rational.
Yeah.
I understand Starfleet's reasoning, but then again, the universe is mostly rocks, gas. Yeah, it is rare. Like, who are we to just not protect life if we have the ability to do it?
That's how I kind of feel.
Yeah, and I get
think
that.
After they've done this plan where they beam these people off and the people don't even know they've left the planet.
Yeah.
Like, if
Which
if
I
that's
thought
an
was
option,
a really great solution.
Yeah, if that's an option, maybe that's something that should be considered more often.
Yeah.
If a species is about to be destroyed.
Maybe they need to figure out their holodeck stuff so they could save more species like that.
Yeah.
Because there's plenty of habitable planets at this point. They have the ability to get to them.
Although it does seem that in the Star Trek universe, life is abundant. It's everywhere.
Well, it's only abundant because we have warp.
Right. Yeah. We can get to places faster.
Yeah, that's the only reason it's abundant. It's not actually abundant.
Well, I mean, I think that if there are, I do think there are other like intelligent life forms out there, but I think that like the amount of different species they find on Star Trek seems like a lot, I
guess so, but if you just think about like the
how
whole
much space is out there,
how much space there is,
yeah,
it's like,
but just like all these people being able to reach each other,
26 episodes of weird species, that's abundant in the entirety. Like, I'm just saying.
Like saying that there's 20. Let's say like there's like hundreds within travelable distance where they're close enough that they can warp to each other in a relatively short amount of time.
Yeah,
you know?
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess it depends on how big you see it.
Dan says, if I see someone passed out on the sidewalk and other people just walk by them, ignoring them, I get really upset that someone isn't doing something. So then I will out of spite. Wow.
Ooh, saving people out of spite. I love that.
That's I instantly question that. Jeff instantly loves it.
I know, but that's a good point though. Like,
yeah,
would somebody do something? Would you do something if you saw nobody else doing something just because nobody else was doing it?
Yeah, like I've been in that situation a couple times where I walked by someone who like obviously needed help. One time I was in San Francisco. I was with this girl I was dating. This guy walked by who was like bleeding out of his head and was like staggering everywhere. And something obviously very bad had happened. And she like grabbed her her clothes and like went over to him and wrapped it around and like made a tourniquet on his head and like helped him. And my immediate reaction was like, oh my God, blood. What do I do?
Yeah,
you know, my immediate reaction was like, I don't want to touch that. I'm so scared.
Right.
And she like jumped into action and helped this person. I was like, whoa,
that
you're
takes
a better person than me.
That takes a lot for a lot of people. My friend, my ex-boyfriend, like one time we saw somebody passed out on the side of the road and they were like stuck like between a fence and like a bunch of like trees and stuff. And I was like, that doesn't look good. Like, what if he's like dead or something? And I was like, we need to stop and check it out, you know? And he did not want to stop. Like, he did not stop. And I understand, you know, he's like, I don't want to be involved in whatever's going on over there.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, I will say that like since then, I have stopped a couple times to help people that, or ask people if they needed help that looked like they needed help. And the answer has always been no. Right. Every time it's been like, get the fuck away from me. Like and it's really bizarre, you know? And it makes me,
that stings.
Yeah. It makes me feel like a lot of those people, a lot of them were just like really drunk, you know? And we're just like,
well, drunk people don't really have their senses about them either.
Yeah. So. And drunk people don't want help and like can't accept it.
Yeah.
So then you're putting yourself in a position to try to help someone who doesn't want it and can't accept it.
Yeah.
But does need it.
Which could potentially put you in danger too.
Right. Which could put you in like legal trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's a very like complex thing that I just don't quite know how to feel about.
Paula brings up a good point. They saw it as a long veiled abortion argument.
The episode?
Yeah. Which I can see as well.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
Because if you save every life that you find, then you can't allow abortion.
I guess so. I mean, there is a little bit of a pro-choice thing there, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I've never thought about that. That's
yeah. I'm gonna have to think about that.
I'm gonna have to think about that
because that's complicated. I'm definitely pro-choice. You know.
Yeah, like I'm
saving
absolutely
a race
pro-choice.
of fully developed people, even if they're not advanced, would be different than saving somebody who's not even a person yet.
I guess the argument would be if all life is precious and we're saving this planet full of people because their life is precious, like then who are we to say that this child?
Well, I would say that they're not a child. So
right, I'm with like I'm completely. I'm like 100% pro-choice. I think that at that point, it's like it's the woman's body. You know, it's not.
Yes, exactly.
It's like not necessarily.
Yeah,
a child
I don't
yet.
know
It's
if this is the right
body.
parallel, but I get where you're going.
Yeah,
with
that's really interesting.
Yeah.
Paula also said something else really interesting. I will stop for an animal every time, but think twice about stopping for people.
Well, animals don't know any better, and people should.
Wonderful.
So there's that. Whenever I'm in those situations, I typically think that there's someone more qualified than me to help, which makes me slow to action. Yeah.
That's a good point.
But make sure that everyone's bewaring of the bystander effect.
I think on Dan's point, call for help from someone who is more...
Call somebody who's more qualified.
Prepared than you.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good solution.
That's a great solution.
I like that. Wow, man, this episode brought up a lot of stuff to talk about.
This is great. Yeah,
we also like both smoke weed, and now we're getting all philosophical.
I'm glad. This makes for good talking.
Totally.
I love it.
Okay, next up, please be Sub Rosa. I'm ready. Sub Rosa!
Oh, God.
The one where Beverly fucks a ghost.
You mentioned this, remember?
In episode 1.
Yeah, you've mentioned it in episode 1. We had that one song that we did together.
Yeah.
That was really good.
You stayed up late watching TNG on your iPad. It was the one where Beverly fucks a ghost. You don't even like that episode. Yeah. I referenced this in a song.
Yeah, it's really good. And I didn't know which one you were talking about. And I didn't realize that I was going to have to watch the entire series before I finally saw that this is the episode. And it was pretty terrible. I like
Paula says skip. This is the worst episode of TNG. This is my least favorite. And there are bad episodes of this show.
Yeah, like, but I've never heard you say this. You're always saying this is one of the best. I've never heard you say this is the worst.
I despise this episode.
And apparently this is literally the worst
is
episode.
Like terrible writing, very questionable acting choices. Like it's not good. It's not good. Okay.
And the guy is not that hot.
So
the guy's not that hot.
Here's the description. Beverly Crusher attends her grandmother's funeral, but a mysterious entity that inhabited her grandmother is now focusing on her. Basically, there's this like spirit. Excuse me, too much LaCroix.
Spirit.
There's this like weird alien life form that is pretending to be a spirit or ghost that is living inside of this candle that Beverly Crusher's like the women in her family have been like passing down for years, and this candle.
They've all been fucking the same.
They've all been fucking the same ghost.
Yeah,
for like generations.
Yeah.
You didn't light the candle. You didn't light the candle. It's like that guy has the worst accent you've ever heard. It's this planet of Scottish people. It makes no sense. It makes no sense. Why did they do this? It's so stupid.
It was bad.
Paula says romance novel, soft porn, gag me with a phaser. Totally.
I love that. Yeah, it was bad.
It's bad.
It's bad.
It's a gothic romance story
of any
for no reason.
Qualities of this.
There's one redeeming quality.
The set design in the cabin.
No, I didn't care for that much.
Really?
It was fine. It was
nice.
It was a cabin. I'm not watching Star Trek to see cabins. You know, I'm not watching Star Trek for any of this except for there's like one moment where there's like a fog rolls into the bridge and it's hilarious. That's the only moment in the whole episode that's worth watching. The rest of it's like garbage. And the guy who plays this character, what was his name?
I don't get it.
What is his name?
Give me a pot of cold, would you, mate?
Let's see. What is this guy's name?
This guy, they could have at least given me like a handsome bloke.
Yeah, he looks.
But they didn't even do that.
So
that guy is a
evil.
Mess.
He like looks evil. He
obviously
looks
like
evil.
He smokes a lot.
Where is the cast on this page? Here we go. Ronan. Duncan Reger as Ronan. Bonergeist.
Oh, Bonergeist. I thought it said Bonnergeist.
No, Bonergeist. That's great.
Yeah.
The Amityville Boner. All right, guys, we have a new project.
All right, boner puns. I know you guys have a lot of those.
No, ghost fucking puns.
Yeah, but Amityville Boner.
Yeah, Amityville Horror.
Oh, yes, ghost. Okay,
yeah,
I got it.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I really just hate this. I really hate that it seems to like change Beverly's brain. I think that this is rape. You know, I think that this guy,
absolutely,
like, affecting how she's thinking because she obviously changes, and then like sleeping with her.
And at the end, she becomes kind of not an apologist. I just think she's like Stockholmed a little bit because at the end she like wants to believe that. She's like, well, I was reading her journals and she was never happier. And it's like, bitch, neither were you.
Right. it's like being on drugs.
Yeah, like you were on drugs.
Like putting someone on drugs so that they will sleep with you is rape.
Yeah,
you know?
that's messed up, dude.
That's
and I wanted to be like, girl, respect yourself.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, I think my biggest problem with this episode is Beverly's reaction to what's happening to her is not like angry. She's angry and she kills him.
Yeah.
And that one moment
she screams a lot.
Like, thank God she at least kills this thing.
Also, some good like hysterical acting from her. I guess that might be one of the redeeming qualities of that because I really did like her hysteria when she was like yelling at him, and I had never seen her be like that, so it was cool.
Yeah. So Jonathan Frakes directed this one also.
Yeah, I saw.
And I saw an interview with him once where he was talking about season 7, how he's like, yeah, we've got this great episode where you get to see like Gates McFadden,
he said it was
simulating
great?
these things. Like, he loved this episode. He's like, he gets to see her like simulating the sexual situation or something like that, and he sounded like he was like really enjoying it.
That's creep.
And it really creeped me
behavior.
out. So I find this whole episode to be so creepy and weird, and it's like comically bad sometimes. But for the most part, it's just bad. It's like not fun bad.
I didn't have enough fun for it to be redeeming at all with the badness. I did not find that fun.
Jeff is right now.
It was embarrassing.
Checking her social media posts of her being on this podcast to see if people like it.
Yeah, and they do. A lot of you do. Thank you.
Nice. Oh, Paula says Crusher girlfriend learned a fake orgasm.
What? Oh, got it. Crush. I was like, whose girlfriend?
Crusher's girlfriend. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that whole scene where she's
that was awkward.
In the cabin and like Picard walks in on her and she's like in the midst of having sex with a ghost.
Yeah.
And he's like, Beverly?
Yeah.
She's like, you don't knock? I mean, seriously, though, he doesn't knock?
Yeah, that was messed up.
I noticed this whole season that they just walk in on each other a lot in their homes.
Well, because they're fam, and they think it's going to be okay. And if you're jerking off, lock the door.
I think there's less of a sense of privacy among this culture.
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting.
I think so.
Well, that episode blows. Let's move on.
But this next episode, I really enjoyed.
This
I enjoyed this one a lot.
This is in the running for my favorite of the season also. Episode 15, Lower Decks. So
like half of them now? Or
no, that's like been two.
Mm-hmm.
Two parallels and this one. I think just two.
How can you not have sex with a ghost? No locks, no regrets. Daniel knows.
Okay, so Lower Decks, episode 15, junior officers speculate on the reasons for recent unusual actions taken by the command crew near the Cardassian border. So this is the episode that we see entirely from the point of view of four lower officers, like
junior officers.
Junior officers, thank you, like ensigns and maybe a lieutenant.
And one bar guy.
Yeah, and the bartender.
Kind of floats between both of them, though.
Yeah, the bartender seems to exist in both worlds.
Yeah.
Where he like talks to the senior officers. He goes to their poker game.
Server life, son. I know rich people and I know po people.
Yeah, Ben. he's a great character, but he also plays poker with the junior officers. And this brings back Ensign Cito, who was Cito Jaxa, who was in Starfleet Academy when Wesley was, and was part of that episode where like Wesley got in trouble for doing those crazy maneuvers with his group. She was one of those people. The same actress, same character.
Wait, that's her, right?
Yeah, okay. Cito Jaxa.
Got it.
So they brought her back, and they talked about that in this episode about the fact that she made those poor choices. Okay. And it became like a plot point.
I didn't even think about that, so I was confused, and I was gonna figure that out, but I forgot to Google it. But I was like, didn't that like happen?
Yeah, and that was
in
her.
The show?
Yeah, same actress.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. So I fucking love this episode. This is something that I would watch an entire series of.
This
is like junior officers.
Spin-off.
This would have been a great spin-off.
This would have been
a
great spin-off.
Junior officers who are not in on what's happening on the bridge and like having to learn to deal with it. Like this episode,
they figured out how to do Scrubs season 7 better. Was it 7? The last season of Scrubs. They figured out how to do it.
I watched
Scrubs should have just like done what they did and made it good.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Like some of the main cast left and they brought in like a new staff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So part of what makes this episode work so well is that there's like so many main characters. I mean, the whole main crew plus these like 4 or 5 new people, and they balance them all so well.
It's really good.
There's like emotional moments for Picard and for Worf, but like mostly for these new characters. Yeah. So it really tied in really well with like the existing cast while adding so much more. Like balancing like 11 characters like that, that's crazy. It's
bonkers,
so well
but they
done.
did it so well.
Yeah.
And I just really loved seeing everything from these guys' perspectives. I loved seeing their faults. They didn't just go with like a normal character arc with you've got like the sassy one and you've got the mean one and you've got they're all actually like pretty multi-dimensional for having only known them for like a few minutes,
Totally.
So it's they really built some good characters, and I wish that we could have seen more of them,
Totally. Like Nurse Ogawa has been around for a while, and I loved putting her at the center of an episode.
Yeah, it
Super
was
cool.
She's great. She's great. And is he a Romulan or
he's a Vulcan?
He's a Vulcan.
Yeah,
that guy was great too. He's like really annoying, but like a good guy, and like
classic Vulcan.
Yeah, no one's working against each other. Everyone hopes for the best for everyone else, you know?
Totally.
And they're all angling for this promotion. It's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that this episode is like remarkably well written.
Yeah.
I get so choked up every time because the moment at the end, like you have all these characters that want to prove themselves, you know, like Sam Lavelle is like a young Riker and he wants Riker's attention and he's super self-conscious.
Yeah.
And he's like really cute and really charming. But that actually gave me a little bit of insight into Riker also. It's like, this reminds me so much of Riker. I could see this being Riker younger, you know?
And they touch on that. Troy was like, well,
that's why Lavelle annoys him.
Yeah,
totally.
Yeah, sounds like somebody I know, dude. Like,
yeah.
And it's really great.
Totally.
It was really good episode all around. It was really sad when what's her face didn't come back.
Yeah, Cito Jackson.
And I was shocked that that's just what happened.
It's
like
nuts.
I thought we were gonna
so
rescue her or something, and then I saw there were like 5 minutes left in the episode, and I was like, holy moly, they just killed her. That's terrible. That's sad. I mean, it's good, but like, you know,
the moment where she's trying to prove herself to
kind
Picard.
of Breakfast Club. Yeah.
Oh yeah, totally like Star Trek Breakfast Club.
That was cute.
I love
That's
that.
cute.
Yeah,
I love
like
that.
it. That's really cute. She's trying to prove herself. I know, Worf at the end. Yeah, I love that so much.
So good.
But so like Cito wants to prove to Picard that she is a good officer and that like what she's done in her past doesn't necessarily affect who she is. Well, it affects who she is now, but she's grown and she's learned and she wants to do better.
And she has a great record on the Enterprise.
Yeah, and he like pushes her and she comes back at him so strong. And I love that it was all a test to see whether or not she was up to going on this secret mission. And when she volunteers, it's like so emotional. You know, when she realizes that Picard does believe in her, like a lot, and that he's been testing her and she's passed, and that she doesn't even question, you know, whether or not she should risk her life for this organization, for this person, and that it's so powerful and emotional. And then like a minutes later, you find out that she's been killed. Yeah, and it's so intense.
Yeah, and I really thought that they were setting us up to like, you know, have this like big like cool rescue thing happening or something. But that's not even what this episode's about. Yeah. Yeah. It was really great.
Justin S. did that same Vulcan end up on Voyager. I thought so, but I looked it up. I think the actor did, but not the same character. Let's see.
Paula says that you suddenly care about the red shirts. And I like that. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. So the actor that played Torek is actually the son of one of the writers, Jerry Taylor, who's a producer on Voyager and writer on a whole bunch of Star Trek. Let's see. He was in the 6th season episode Time Zero Part 2, where he played like a, what's it called? Like a background person. So he was Vorik in Star Trek Voyager. Vorik and not Tarek. I think they're supposed to be brothers, actually.
Oh, cool.
Here, let's look up Vorik. And the only reason they do stuff like that is because if you use the same name from the first episode, you have to pay the writers from the first episode over and over. That's why Tom Paris came back in Voyager as a different person than he was Nick Locarno in the episode we've been talking about, the guy who was in charge of like the Red Squadron or Red Squad. What is it? What that squadron of like fancy flying that Wesley was doing?
Right.
Yeah, Nick Locarno's in charge of that. He plays the same character on Voyager, but they rename him Tom Paris
so that they don't have to pay somebody.
So they don't have to pay the writers. Cheap. Yeah. So let's see. Vorik.
Nova Squadron.
This is all about. He was on Voyager a lot. So he was a pretty like main character. So the producer Jerry Taylor, who happens to be the mother of the actor, once suggested that Tarek and Vorik were twin brothers. Yeah. So that's not canon, but that's like a suggestion from the writer. Cool. But I'm like, that guy was on Voyager, and I was so excited. But the character was not. Okay, going back.
What's next?
Yeah, let's see what's next. Episode 16. Nova Squadron. Awesome. Thank you, Justin. Episode 16 is Thine Own Self. Data suffers amnesia in a primitive society while Troy applies for a promotion.
Ooh, this one was so sad to me.
Yeah, how Data has this friendship with this girl.
Yeah.
And then he doesn't remember any of it. It was so sad.
Oh, he doesn't remember that?
No, like when they reactivate him at the end, he doesn't remember anything of his time there.
So sad. They were friendies.
Yeah, at the end of this episode is like, I don't know what happened. And they're like, well, you saved an entire village and you were a very special friend to a little girl.
Yeah.
I'm like, classic Data.
Yeah. I was mostly sad that they didn't know what radioactive stuff was. And
yeah.
people died from radiation sickness, and that's like a thing that happens in real life. So it made me sad.
I think they tried to imply that no one died, that he caught it in time.
Oh, really?
And saved the day in time. Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry.
But I mean, who knows? Like, it seems like someone probably would have died.
No, maybe not. Maybe I made that up. But anyway, I think it mostly reminds me of this episode from House that makes me really sad.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, a House episode. I think
I
that's
love House.
Why.
I don't. Which one are you talking
There's
about?
one where like a dad like gives his son something that he found when he was diving. He like dives for stuff or something, and he had given his son this keychain of this thing that he found. And it turned out that it was like highly radioactive, and they didn't know. So his son died.
Ugh.
And like it was really hard because it was just this keychain that he made for his son that like killed him in the end. It was really sad. He died of radiation
I don't remember that. That's terrible.
So now, and House like traumatized me in so many ways. I'm the kind of person that can't like go on WebMD ever.
Yeah.
Because I will get cancer and die.
Yeah, I loved House. I think I've seen every episode.
And I shouldn't. I love that show, but I shouldn't watch it. Like, I just think that I'm ill all the time if I watch it. But anyway, so that shit like leaves an effect on me. So it reminded me of House, just the radiation sickness stuff. Like,
yeah, interesting.
And so it would just make me really sad.
Yeah. Justin says, I love that Data just schools everyone with science. There's like that woman who's the scientist
or whatever,
who's wrong about everything.
Microscope.
Yeah. That like the woman who's like the healer of the town and seems like the only scientist in the town is just like wrong about everything. And I love how she's so cocky. Yeah. She's like, I know. Oh, this is because you're from the ice. You're an ice man.
You're an ice man.
Yeah. Master of the lake men. Hey, RedTube. Welcome. Thanks for joining us.
RedTube, eh?
RedTube.
RedTube's a porn site.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Welcome. I like this episode a lot. I struggle a little bit with its placement in the show because this feels like a season 4 episode to me. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's so similar to an episode from season 3, I think, where Data goes to that planet and tries to convince everyone to leave, and they won't. And he has to prove to them, like he destroys their aqueduct to prove to them they have to leave. Yeah. Whenever like Data goes and lives in a like more primitive society for a whole episode, I glaze over a little bit. But I do like this episode a lot.
Yeah, I like it a lot too. But there are some boringness issues with it.
Yeah.
For sure.
It's a little predictable too.
It is. But I do like how he still, was smart enough to save the town, like by using the scientific method that's obviously very much ingrained in his brain,
Yeah.
So even though he doesn't know that he doesn't actively know he's an android.
He has no idea.
Yeah, he has no idea. So, but he's just using, the knowledge that he has to figure this stuff out, not knowing that he can,
Yeah, I find it hard to believe that he doesn't know what radioactive means because he knows what the word says. And he can. It's like he has gaps in his memory.
Yeah, you're right.
He doesn't know who he is. He doesn't know he's an android. He doesn't know radioactive, but he remembers everything else about science.
Right.
So I found that a little hard to swallow.
Yeah, it's hard to believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I struggle with this one a little bit, but I do think it's a good episode. Unlike the next one, Masks. This is okay.
Ugh.
This episode's a little stupid. Maybe just a little dumb.
Ugh.
While investigating,
not a huge fan of this one.
While investigating a rogue comet, the cultural archive concealed inside begins taking over the Enterprise. This is the one where Data is inhabited by like a whole civilization's worth of people, and Picard has to learn their like rituals so he can become a part of the ritual.
This was not a Data episode.
No.
This was a Brent Spiner episode.
Oh my God. Yeah, totally.
Like I love Data episodes, and to me, I don't even count that in this. Because
I agree. But yeah, Justin says Spiner has a lot of range in this one.
I know he has a lot of range. I get it. Like I just felt like it was very crutchy. Like I've seen him do different characters already. I've seen this.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like
I don't need a whole episode built around an excuse to give one actor a chance to show off.
Yeah, he's had other ones like that. Just show off being Data. Your Data, let's just see more about what Data's deal is. I would much rather we spend an episode on that.
They spent so much time talking to people inside of Data.
And it literally barely helped.
I know. Totally. Totally. Like, he got very little information that they extrapolated the whole solution
They got
out
all of their solution stuff from, like, the fact that all of the symbols were flashing on the computers.
Yeah.
Like,
readjust here. Oh my God.
Like,
it's not very much space. Okay. Yeah. I don't know. I want to like this episode, but I can't. You know?
Yeah. I appreciate a lot about this episode.
I like the first half of it.
Like it.
Yeah, I love the fact that they find this crazy archive inside of a comet that's been traveling for like super long time through space. I think that's super cool.
That was a cool idea, and they should have done better things with it.
They should have just like visited that city that was inside of the comet, that archive. They should have had to go there. That would have been so cool.
Yeah.
Like maybe they go there and Data is like being taken over by these people who know the way and can show them around.
Yeah.
Way more interesting episode.
Yeah.
Totally.
And they're booby traps.
Yeah. I mean, this is totally a bottle episode. This is actually kind of an egregious bottle episode to me, where
they used a lot of new set pieces. Well, not new ones, but they used a lot of set pieces that they just
wheel in set pieces and put them down and say that the Enterprise is transforming.
Yeah,
and it's so stupid. It's like, oh my God, we got these big giant bricks here. Silly. That means that the Enterprise is transforming, but the walls are all the same. Like the rooms are all the same shape.
It's so cheap.
It's very cheap. I mean, this.
So when you do a bottle episode, I love bottle episodes because it usually forces you into good writing because you have like these restrictions and you have to do your best with what you have.
Right.
And they did not do their best.
I wonder how much of that was the set design issues. Like, I wonder if this script would have been cool if you could have seen the Enterprise transform the way that they were describing it. It's like, there's like a river in deck 4 or something like that. If we'd seen that, that would have been so cool.
Yes, totally. But they couldn't have done that.
Then yeah, in that situation, I say like, don't write that. You know, like just don't write this episode. They did better things with this idea in Stargate.
Ooh.
I love Stargate.
I'm
so excited about the
I've
show.
only seen like the first few seasons.
I've only seen every episode of every Stargate show.
Oh, that's it? Damn, you really should get more into it.
I've forgotten a lot of it though because it was a while back. That's something I'd love to watch again.
I really liked it. I just kind of fell off of the TV thing for a while. Like,
that's good though.
Yeah. So, but I really did enjoy that show. I should go back and rewatch all of it.
I've been playing so much Mario Maker that I've not been watching as much TV. And when I watch TV, I watch a lot of people streaming now.
Cool.
Just trying to share, bro.
No, I'm just wondering what your life would be like. Like, like what is life without TV and Facebook? Because that's what I do. I'm just on Facebook all day. It's fucked up.
I used to do that. I've gotten better about that. But
I'm balls deep.
Don't get me wrong. I watch a hell of a lot of TV. Don't get me wrong. It's just
no. I wouldn't think that you would ever just give up on TV.
Yeah. Like when I'm watching people streaming, I'm still watching TV.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, next up we have Eye of the Beholder, episode 18. I actually really like this one. Counselor Troy's investigation into the suicide of a crewman suggests a murder was committed aboard the Enterprise while it was being built and that the murderer is still aboard.
We get more Worf and Troy on this one.
That's why I like this one.
Which is what I just love. Because then you start to see, like, it's possible in this universe.
Troy's into it, too.
Yes.
Like, Troy is having these delusions about Worf cheating on her and stuff.
Yeah, and, like, it's cool that that you see that it's not just a Worf thing, even though the first time we see it, it's in the quantum universe stuff, right? So you like to think that it's possible, but maybe it was just that universe that it's possible.
That's what I assumed after seeing that one.
And then you see something happen in the Prime universe,
right?
You know, where and it's Troy having feelings. I'm like, yes, this can totally happen.
Totally,
yes. I was so excited.
It's such a tease. And then this is the episode where you see Worf asking Riker. Or trying to ask Riker and failing to ask if it's okay.
I know, and then it didn't happen.
Yeah. They tease you with this so hard this season. Like, they finally give it to you in the last episode, but they really tease you all throughout the season.
Yeah, they really do.
And I actually really like the murder mystery element of this. Like, they put an interesting twist on it where halfway through the episode, it becomes a vision that Troy's having. Like, half of the episode takes place in an instant because this, like, empathic residue like gets into Troy and triggers this thing that she's
that guy
seeing.
Murders somebody and he's partially telepathic, and that somehow imprints itself
into the ship itself.
Into the ship in
which
that
I think
area,
is such a cool idea. I think it's a pretty rad idea.
It was really cool. I really like what they did with that whole concept and like doing that whole like figuring out, putting the puzzle pieces together. Like they're really solving a mystery. You know.
And it's also interesting that you see a crewman commit suicide and how much of a big deal that was to everyone. It's like people are pretty happy and well adjusted in this future.
Yeah.
And that's weird.
It's
that
weird.
happened.
Yeah.
And
because there's so many resources that are available to everybody who might have
technology,
mental health issues.
They probably understand the nature of depression at that point and can help.
Yeah,
Instead of just like telling people they're crazy, they can probably help with whatever it. I mean,
So it must have been a shock, when they announced it over the PA.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I also thought was very interesting.
I love that you called that the PA.
What's it called?
I think ships intercom
That's
communications.
I
don't know what it's called, but I like PA.
I like
it.
It
just makes me think like I'm just imagining like the principal from Community sitting at Picard's desk.
Exactly. Yeah. It's the same exact. I bet you that technology has not changed. I bet you they're still using the same system.
I love that idea. And I love that this episode pushes Troy to the point of committing suicide because she's like, her mind's being fucked with, and it's obviously not her.
Yeah,
it's obviously not her making that choice, but it's like she's living out this thing that someone else did and doesn't have control over her choice. Just like this guy who killed himself had no control over that choice. Like he was killed by this empathic residue. He did not kill himself. Which they don't know at first, but I think it's really interesting. I really enjoy this one. I really look forward to it on every watch through, mostly because the Troy and Worf stuff is like awesome in this episode.
Compelling. And she's so happy when he's there when she comes to.
Yeah.
She's like, oh, thank God you're here.
Yeah. Oh, man. Next up, we have Genesis.
This is ridiculous. I loved it.
Yeah.
The like special effects stuff, like the makeup.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's a total horror movie.
Yes, I was gonna say this is like a haunted house episode. Like, it's a scary movie, and I really love it. And it was campy, but it was good.
Yeah,
that it was campy.
Yeah,
and the Troy as an amphibian stuff.
Oh my God!
Oh, so distributing. Yeah, it was so good.
This is actually another like highlight of the season for me.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So good.
Enterprise crew members de-evolve into prehistoric creatures after a medical treatment by Dr. Crusher goes wrong.
Ooh, that's such a scary movie synopsis. Totally. I love it.
The sci-fi in this is so weak. Like it's very thin.
Yeah.
The whole like connecting
the dots.
Justin
said, he really likes it despite the ridiculous premise. Like,
and that's something that I don't care about. If you tell me a good story, I do not care if the science is thin. You know, if you're basing your whole story off of thin science, I get annoyed. Yeah. But the point of this was to tell a monster story.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a monster movie.
I didn't mind about like the whole like dormant T cell. Dormant
T cells. Yeah.
That's fine.
T-cell virus.
It was perfect.
Totally.
There's really not a lot to say about this episode. I don't know if it really drives anything.
Conversation.
I love seeing Barkley again.
Yeah.
He was great in this episode as he is in everything.
As a creepy spider.
Yeah, as a creepy spider, and the lead up to that when he was getting all like, he
was
really
right this
quick
time
about everything.
He was right about his medical paranoia this time.
Yeah, he was. Which is why you should believe people every once in a while.
On WebMD.
Yeah, believe everything you read on WebMD. That's what he was doing. He was on WebMD, the ship's WebMD.
Totally.
Freaking out about stuff.
That is exactly what happened.
But it wasn't, nothing was happening. Nothing that bad was actually happening to him initially.
Right.
It only happened because Crusher tried to fix it, and that like went wrong.
Yeah, basically. He had a weird T cell thing issue.
No, he had a fever that's not common for human beings to get unless they have a dormant
T cell of some kind.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, she tried to reactivate that.
Just the one thing, yeah.
And that spread into the ship and reactivated dormant.
All of the dormant stuff.
What was it called? Dormant T cells, gene, blah blah blah.
Something.
Enrons or something? Enrons. The thing that they finally discover, let's see, introns. Latent introns.
Yeah.
And instead, a synthetic T cell has invaded the genetic code to activate latent introns.
Yeah, that makes total sense to me. I don't know about you.
Yeah. Hey, Sean's back. Welcome back.
What's up, Sean?
Not introns. Justin loves the costume makeup for de-evolved Worf.
Yeah,
I love
good.
that too.
All of the stuff. Oh, it was all horrifying, and it was just wonderful and beautiful. I loved it.
And I actually love the section of this episode where we don't know what's happening, and everyone is acting so weird.
Yeah,
like Troy's like way too too cold and Worf's way too hot, and like Riker's is really dumb, and Worf like has those like sacks. Man, that moment where he has like those sacks of poison and he shoots Crusher in the face.
That was terrifying. And that was also so horror movie, the way she was screaming. The way she was screaming, like,
she directed this episode.
Oh,
isn't that awesome?
Fucking love her.
It's the first thing she ever directed.
I
Gates
love
McFadden.
her so much. And it was such a great episode. Bravo. Snaps to Gates.
Yeah.
Very good.
This is totally in my
I just loved her freak out though, like for real. Like the way she was screaming and holding her face was just so in line with like the monster movie thing.
Yeah. Oh my god, the best moment is when Data tells Picard what he's turning into. He's like, maybe a pygmy marmoset. And he acts that out so well. He just gets like more and more nervous. This episode was more sci-fantasy than sci-fiction.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
And I'm fine with it.
That's cool. I'll allow it.
I love the shit out of this episode. And like a lot of that comes from being a kid and seeing it and being like terrified, you know? Oh my god, I was so scared.
I am still haunted by Troy's makeup in this.
Yeah,
that whole part where she's
oh my god, yeah. Which is like
so fucked up.
Like she makes the crazy faces. I was 10 when this came out and I saw this like when it aired. Yeah.
It was so fucked up, dude.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
Should I get
a Nintendo Switch or a new guitar? Would you rather play video games or music? That's a tough question.
Also, do you have a guitar already?
Yeah. And what gaming systems do you have? We can't talk about this now.
I need to know this stuff.
Well, let's talk about this on Discord. This is a good question, though. Quick question. If you were working on the Enterprise, where would you work? Engineering, medical, bridge, security, or away team? Well, I feel like if you work on the bridge, you end up on the away team all the time. And I feel like bridge officer.
That's a twofer.
Yeah, bridge officer is like a no question. Well, I don't know. Engineering's pretty sweet. I want to be a bridge officer. I want to like sit at the con and like control.
I think that
I want to be the guy who does all the scanning. I want to be Data.
What do I want? Actually, medical is really exciting for me too, though.
Yeah.
That's a tough one. I'm gonna have to think about that. Right now I'm leaning towards bridge, though.
I think engineering would be fun, but it's not quite for me.
I just want to be able to see outside.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I want to be staring out into space all day.
Totally.
So fun.
That's really what it is.
All right. So from that episode to this, Journey's End, episode 20. As a result of a long-disputed treaty with the Cardassians, the Federation has agreed to return several planets to Cardassian control. One such planet, Dorvan 5, is inhabited by the descendants of Native Americans. They do not wish to leave their new home, which they had spent many years searching for.
This one's tough, dude.
I know. It's tough, especially because they call them North American Indians throughout the episode. I mean, it was before political correctness and before like Native Americans became like the political correct term. Or at least like that transition was happening around this time, I think. But it's really unfortunate that transition hadn't quite reached the writer's room of Star Trek at this point, because North American,
it was a little uncomfortable.
It was very uncomfortable. It feels like very out of touch with the culture of Native Americans.
It feels tone deaf. Like I feel like they were trying to do something good, and I can respect that
totally,
because they were like, wow, we're really in this position where we're taking these people's land again.
Right. I like that aspect of the story.
I get that. Like I understand that what they were trying to do, but yeah, I feel like it was a little tone deaf. Like I'm like, did you guys even find a single Native American to be part of like
question.
This like writing process? Because right now you guys are kind of being saviorly, and it's not right. It doesn't look good.
I really struggle with that too. Yeah, I feel like
I respect and appreciate what they're trying to do, I guess. Right. But like, yeah, it was tone deaf. It was weird.
Yeah, like I enjoy a lot of the themes of the episode. I think that the presentation was like obviously a bunch of white guys made this.
Yeah.
You know? And I think that it does not hold up very well at all.
No, it doesn't.
And it's also like really unfortunate the way they brought the Traveler back and they tied it in with Wesley. Like one of my favorite plot points.
I was going to say that it deserved a better episode.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that deserved a better episode for sure.
The Traveler comes back after like saying in season 1 that Wesley was destined for something more exciting, and it finally happens, and they're going to go off in the galaxy together like fucking Doctor Who and experience the universe, and like you just shoehorn that in at the end. Like this whole episode is about, you know, like land conflicts, and then the cool thing happens in the last like minute, and Wesley's a fucking dick in this episode.
he also his like appropriative clothing like at the end, and like I don't know, it just felt very like Roz Trent to me from Lonely Island, like the big Rastafari.
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
It was weird. So yeah, it was a problematic episode, I would say, but well, part of that.
Whoa, Justin says conflict with Wheaton and the writers. Will Wheaton, tell us more. I don't know about this.
I don't know about that.
Yeah. I mean, Wesley's journey on the show was like very contentious. Like a lot of people were really bothered by him. I
love him.
And I love
I was sad to see him go, but I liked
we forgot to talk about how he was in Parallels. He was on one of the bridges, or several of the bridges in Parallels.
He was in several
which was such a great way to use that
cool.
character.
Yeah.
There was like a Ferengi on the bridge. God, that episode's good.
Yeah. Parallels was so good.
Yeah. Justin says part of that I might get this wrong. Let me Google. All right, Justin will be right back with us with more info on that.
But yeah, I'm curious to know if the badness of that episode had something to do with Wheaton having a conflict with the writers.
Yeah, well, let's look at the background info on Wikipedia or Memory Alpha.
It makes sense to me that he would have a conflict and then not be on the show for a while, which is, but I don't understand how that would affect the script of one episode like that.
Yeah, I actually read this last week. I just remember this now. Some interesting points. Jerry Taylor intended the Native American colony in this episode to be the home of Voyager character Chakotay, though it's never mentioned on screen. Also, like this is kind of the birth of the Maquis, which we see in the second to last episode of the season. And the Maquis are a huge part of Voyager, like massive plot point in Voyager.
So it's kind of like an intro to that a little bit.
Yeah, and the Maquis are really fascinating, and they're actually like a really big plot point in DS9 in a way that I really like. So I really like a lot of the Maquis storylines, but it's just a really unfortunate way to start this. There's a lot of talk of Ronald D. Moore saying how he wanted to get Wesley out of the academy and send him off with the Traveler. I felt that there was a built-in contradiction in a character that we'd said was like Mozart in his appreciation of higher mathematics and physics, yet was just on the same career path as any Starfleet cadet. I didn't get it. If Wes is truly special and gifted, what the hell is he doing at the helm? And I actually totally disagree with this.
I agree with that.
Really?
I agree with that. I was not against Wesley leaving Starfleet at all.
Yeah.
I just think that kind of thing, that he needed 2 episodes for that.
I don't mind it. I don't mind him leaving Starfleet.
He needed 2 episodes for him to like realize that he needed to get off Starfleet and go for a bigger destiny, because that was set up with a Traveler. And I do agree with that. But that deserved 2 episodes in this season, at least for that to be part of the B story or something. Yeah, earlier.
I'm on board with that. I would actually love for him to come back as a main cast member for the last year and then build to this.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Just something like, not just to shoehorn it in and just be like, oh, surprise. Like, in a Native American vision.
Yeah.
He sees his dad and decides this. Like, come on, dude. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, it feels like very tacked on. And to me, what I loved about the Traveler episode in season 1 was that they're saying that like Wesley is a genius in the realms of like propulsion and mathematics and physics and all this stuff that like Ronald D. Moore was talking about. And I think that like the best place to express that is in Starfleet. And I would have loved to have seen him like do something like cool and unique within Starfleet. I thought that would have been so interesting.
Yeah, maybe like like almost like how Data, was the first and only android Starfleet officer or something like that. But I don't know. Sometimes people don't work well in academia. I was not able to stay in school, and I feel like I'm intelligent in the ways that I'm intelligent. And
totally.
Maybe because in this episode, he did say that he was fed up with all the rules and stuff like that.
Right.
Like he doesn't want to have to work. He's an anarchist. He doesn't want to have to work in those parameters, like. And
I appreciate that. I mean, I feel that way about our society, but I feel like Starfleet's a much better society than our society. So I don't know.
Yeah.
When I was a kid and I saw this, I was pissed. I was like hurt that Wesley chose something else because I loved how much he loved Starfleet. And it kind of hurt personally. Yeah. As an adult, I'm like, I totally respect that part of it now. I'm like, yeah, you get out of Starfleet if that's what's good for you. But like, tell me a good story about it at least. Like,
totally.
This is not a
I
good
just
story.
don't like how they just shoehorned that in. That was not fair.
Totally.
To Wesley at all. This one felt edited to death.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah. I'm just not wild. It's just not a strong episode.
Great,
it's not that entertaining, and I don't know. They have this whole thing about how Picard moved this other guy's original family like way back in the day. Picard's family and this other guy's family.
Right. Yeah.
And that this was like somehow like karmic retribution.
Yeah.
Just none of it really
worked
weird for me. It just didn't seem to fit in the show either. Okay, next up, episode 21, Firstborn. A mysterious family friend and advisor encourages Worf's son, Alexander, to become a warrior. So this is Alexander from the future coming back to the past to kill himself in the past.
Yeah, dude, chill out, man.
This episode is crazy.
I liked it.
I like it too. I like it.
I like when they go down for the celebration and get to like do all that cool stuff.
Yeah, some great Klingon culture stuff in this episode. Like watching Worf and Alexander jump into the play that was happening.
Yeah, and it was that made it more palatable to me. You know how like usually I'm not a fan of like Klingon stuff. I'm just like they just need to chill out, dude. Like
yeah, I know you say that every time.
Yeah, like I'm not usually a fan, but it was very palatable this time around with this episode. Seeing like a festival, like seeing a kid like getting involved with it. You know, like it was very fun. That part of it was kind of fun to me.
Yeah. I'm looking up the actor who played older Alexander because I thought he was so good in this part. He's been in other Star Trek stuff. Man, they make it hard to find shit on this page.
He's like, "I love you, Dad."
Here we go.
Or father. And he's like, "And I, you."
Yeah.
And I just think it's so funny when people say, "And I, you."
Yeah. I am you. Okay, let's see. It was James Sloyan. So he played several Star Trek characters. His largest, most frequent role was that of Mora Pol, the Bajoran scientist who first studied Odo. Oh, that's who it is. In Deep Space Nine's second and fifth seasons. Oh, okay. He was in this other thing. Let's see. Oh yeah. He was Admiral Jarok in The Defector.
Yeah.
That's the one I was thinking of.
I knew his face looked familiar.
And he was on Voyager also. The Defector is one of my absolute favorite episodes, and he was like remarkable in that episode and really good in this one too.
Yeah,
like,
he's
he
a
brings
good actor.
so much emotional weight to whatever he's doing. It's so cool. I actually really love the twist that this character that we've been watching for the whole episode is Alexander from the future. I think it's really
so
interesting.
much more interesting than another Klingon trying to force a kid into being a warrior so that he can honor his family. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But when it's that like, person trying to tell himself.
Yeah, to do
so
it
interesting.
For reasons that are much, more different than just honor, like it's more about saving his father,
Totally. All right, Justin says, after Gene Roddenberry died, somebody else took over. The shooting schedule was interfering with Will Wheaton being in feature films. He wanted to be in this film that went a week into filming of TNG. Oh, I have heard this before, but he couldn't do that because then the first episode of the new season was all about his character. So he passed on the film, and then they wrote him out of the episode.
Fudge.
And then Will saw it as them saying, "We own you. Don't you ever try to do anything without us." So he left, but came back as guest star on 4 episodes. Wow.
Dang.
Yeah, that's interesting.
That was rude of them. They shouldn't have written him out like that.
Yeah. Well, I love that he's in 2 in the last season. I think that's super cool.
That's great.
Yeah.
Klingons are cool in an Oakland Raiders fan kind of way. Yeah. You guys are bonkers. Perhaps today is a good day to die. Don't do that. All right.
So I've always felt like Worf is like a terrible father. And
he's gotten so much better, though.
He has gotten better. He's improved. But in this episode, the big moment of growth is the very end where he tells Alexander that he doesn't have to practice today. He's like, there's plenty of time to train or whatever because he's training with the Batleth. And that, Alexander's there and ready to go, and he seemed to want to do it that day. Like I would have loved to see is Worf say, "Do you want to do this? Is this what you want to do right now? Because if not, we can do something else together."
Yeah,
that's what I would have wanted to see there.
Right. I don't think. I feel like that's kind of his way of doing that. I don't know if Worf has the language for that.
I agree, and I think that Alexander needs a parent that has that language because he's part human.
He's working on it. I mean, he told Alexander, like, you don't have to be a warrior.
Yeah.
He finally told him that, like, it's your life.
Totally.
Like,
and I actually really love.
Don't worry about the fact that I'm going to die. We'll figure that out. We can change the future. Like,
what he says to old Alexander is great. Worf has that speech, that moment with old Alexander where they come to terms, and I love that. Like that showed so much growth for Worf, and I really wanted him to have that moment with young Alexander. And he doesn't really. Yeah, he doesn't really. So I still feel like he hasn't he hasn't developed the emotional language that he needs to be a good parent still.
He'll
oh my
get
God.
there though.
Swag just added a command. Command Jeff is hello Jeef.
Oh yeah.
That's awesome.
Thank
and that'll
you.
just be in my chat from now
Yay!
on. That's great.
Remember to hello Jeef even when I'm not here, guys. Who hasn't wanted to go back and tell their younger self a thing or two?
Totally.
Like literally all the time.
So yeah, what happens to that guy? Like old Alexander. Old Alexander.
Alexander.
He can't go back to his future time, can he? Does he go back? They don't make it clear. Is he just living in this time now? They don't make that clear at all.
Yeah, but you know.
Oh, it's Command Jeef. Even better.
I presume that he just ceases to exist because I feel like the future was changed regardless.
Yeah, I mean, it says at the end that he goes off to do something else, but they don't say where he went or how, or like I would hope that he would have technology to get back to his time, but it seems like this was a one-way trip. I had a feeling this was a one-way trip.
Yeah, it seemed very Terminator to me.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And it's really interesting that he was willing to kill himself in the past to save his dad.
That's weird.
Yeah.
Chill out, dude. You guys need to chill.
Like, that's a dumb plan. Like,
it's such a dumb plan.
It's like not necessarily going to do what he wants.
Why don't you just be like, I'm you from the future. You have to be a warrior. Trust me.
That's already a better plan.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Trust me, dude.
Yeah. I don't know. It's crazy. Anyway, we're getting close to the end of the season here. Episode 22, Bloodlines.
Ain't no way this motherfucker is 23 years old. This fool is, bitch, you are 40.
That's funny. Yeah, so Damon Bach threatens the life of a son Picard never knew he had. And you're referencing like the actor playing Picard's son.
Yes.
Quote unquote son.
Yes, he's supposed to be 23
Jason
years old.
Vigo. Yeah, I didn't even pick that up. You're right.
Yeah.
No, he's like 40 years old. Look at his face. I mean, he looks great for 40.
He looks great.
But he looks terrible for 23.
He looks like, I guess he's been in a lot of trouble. He probably smokes and drinks a lot, but I don't know if that'll do that much to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you feel about this episode?
It was all right.
Yeah, I feel the same.
Yeah, it was pretty good. I liked that, once they had kind of made the bond that they might be related, they couldn't easily just be like, oh, never mind.
Yeah, I did like that a lot.
Back,
that's my favorite part of the
episode. Because they did develop something over this mystery.
Right.
So I like that was real enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was good. It was good. That actor was a little ridiculous.
I feel like it was just obvious that he wasn't going to end up being his son in the end.
It was just kind of
so
predictable
obvious.
Writing. Yeah.
It's like a sequel to an episode from season 1, where like Damon Bach found Captain Picard's old ship and then like used that mind control device to make Picard think he was back on the Stargazer, so he would like destroy the Enterprise or something. I don't know.
Vaguely remember
it's like
that.
Really convoluted and stupid episode from season 1 that did not need to be followed up on. And they even recast Damon Bach because like that actor, I don't know why that actor wasn't available or whatever. So it's like really not obvious that it's even the same character.
That's weird.
Yeah. And apparently, I was like looking this up because I'm like, why did they do this episode? It's so bizarre at the end of the season. Apparently, Patrick Stewart was asked by the writers, like, what would you want to see happen with Captain Picard? And he's like, oh, I always thought it was so interesting that there's this Ferengi out there that hates me and wants me dead and is like running around in the galaxy somewhere. And this is what they made to.
I forgot about that guy.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I on one hand, I really appreciate the callback as like a big fan. I'm like, oh, it's kind of cool they're tying this back in. And I actually really like seeing Picard kind of realizing that he wants a kid. I think this episode is about him understanding that something is missing from his life because he never had children. And he's never really, that's never really been an option for him.
No.
And you see that he wants it. He wants this relationship.
He's sabotaging himself, though. He could have gone off with that lady from season 6 and not just... I get that he's a career guy, but he has options.
Yeah, totally. I mean, he's been in love with Dr. Crusher the whole time.
Yeah. Serious.
Sean says the episode where Worf gets hurt and wants to kill himself and is paralyzed and his son talks him out of it was very deep and very touching and dealt with real life issues people deal with every day. Yeah, that's an episode we talked about on one of our previous podcasts.
Yeah, and it was great.
I remember you really liked that episode.
I really liked that one a lot. I also really liked the special effects in that episode. I remember being really impressed with that.
Oh yeah. With like regrowing his spine. Yeah.
And like that cool hologram with like the spine thing.
Oh yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, it was
cool.
really cool. That was a cool episode.
Yeah.
I actually remember it, and it was like eons ago to me. So
yeah. Well, as for Bloodlines, like I definitely like this episode. It's definitely not on a dislike list at all.
Yeah, I don't dislike it, but that's about the best thing that I can say about it.
My biggest problem with it is that it's like right at the end of the series. And there's a couple of duds right at the end of the season.
Yeah.
Like that one's a little bit of a dud. And I think this next one is a little bit of a dud also.
Yeah. And there was no reason it had to be placed there in the in the season. They could have just done it earlier or something.
Yeah. It's like of all the stories you had left to tell, the last like Picard story you're going to tell is this story.
Yeah.
I feel like they could have gone a little deeper and done a little more. All right,
or at least made him his son.
Yeah, totally.
Why don't
it would
you just
feel so
make
much
him
more
his son?
powerful that way.
I was expecting for it not to be his son.
Yeah.
It would have been way cooler if like we found out that it was his son. But
Yeah, I agree. That would have more resonance, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, next up, episode 23, we have Emergence. A series of puzzling events on and off the holodeck lead the crew of the Enterprise to a surprising conclusion. The ship is creating its own offspring. The crew has to assist with this arduous process to ensure the survival of the emerging life form and their own.
I don't think I like the holodeck. It turns out. I think that's what it is. I think after 7 seasons of this, I'm like, holodeck is just never my favorite thing.
I think this episode is such
I would love to have a holodeck to play with. Sorry.
Yeah. I think it's such a cool idea, but it's boring.
Yeah.
Like they took this super cool idea of like this being created by a starship based off of the experiences of all of the crew in the last 7 years. And I feel like they're trying to make a statement about how, all of our journeys together, how could this thing possibly be bad? If it's taking on us, like we should give it the chance to live. But it's just boring. Like the episode itself is boring and slow.
What was the B story on this?
Is there a B story?
See, that's the problem. If there wasn't, then...
Oh, Data practicing his Shakespeare.
That's not a B story. That's the beginning and the end of the thing.
Yeah. I guess that's true. I like that, though.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe that's why this episode is boring, is because it doesn't have a B story.
It wasn't a strong enough thing on its own to carry the whole episode. They should have had some other thing going on.
Yeah, and I think
maybe they did, and maybe that was boring too, and I don't remember it. But
if I were telling the story, I would spend the first half with what they did with like an emerging intelligence coming out of the ship and then forming a body, and the second half would be like, what is this thing, and how does it like? Is this like what is it gonna do? Like how is it gonna exist? What the fuck just happened?
Yeah.
I would do that for the second half of the story because that's way
so
more
much time
interesting
trying to talk to
than
Hicks
Worf
on the
shoveling coal so that the train can go faster.
I literally, when he started doing that, I talk to myself a lot when I'm watching TV.
Yeah,
like you hear me in the other room, and I'm like, "What?"
Yeah,
and that I literally went like, "What is that?" Like, what? Like, I was like, "That's dumb."
It's okay. I mean, when I think about what happened in that episode, I'm like, that was cool. But when I watch it, I'm like, bored. Next up, we have Preemptive Strike, which is episode 24. Lieutenant Rowe is sent undercover to root out a Maquis cell. Lieutenant Rowe now. She got promoted.
Yes.
Justin says, next stop, Vertiform City.
Yeah, that was embarrassing.
Yeah, like all the background characters are like super like
hokey and dumb.
And they're all like very unintelligent characters because they don't really have intelligence.
I would rather have seen a Murder on the Orient Express episode. Like had them
where they're stuck in a holodeck and someone's gonna get murdered on the Orient Express.
Why not?
Yeah,
they do it all the time. They may as well just take a concept that's really cool and like do their own version of that.
Yeah,
I still wouldn't have liked it as much. But
no.
But I would rather have seen something like that than that mess.
Totally. Well, let's talk about Preemptive Strike, which is another episode that's like so strangely placed in the season because it's the second to last episode and it's about Rowe, who hasn't been on the show all season, and you don't see that much of the main cast. which is so weird.
And I like Ro.
I love Ro. I love this episode.
Yeah, and it's a good episode, but it was kind of a surprise.
I wish it had been like one episode earlier.
Yeah.
That's all it would have taken for me, and it would have fixed my main problem with this episode, which is just like, why do this second to last episode of the show?
Yeah.
But I do love this episode a lot.
It is a really good episode. Her haircut was very, very distracting for me.
Was it?
But it was a really good episode, and I, in the end, did she ever really did she learn anything?
She betrays
Picard
and Starfleet and goes off with the Maquis. Like she finds a sense of belonging for the first time. I think that she was always like a square peg in a round hole. The round hole being Starfleet.
That's always been her thing.
Yeah. And discovering a place where she could be a square peg with other square pegs is kind of like the point of the episode.
Yeah, I guess so. But also like they kind of set it up where like her prejudice against the Cardassians
yeah,
is what accidentally lands her,
right.
in this the beginning of the episode. That's like
I agree with that. That is
so
a problematic
she
element.
Never learns to not hate people while we're trying to heal what
the whole idea of the Maquis is kind of like maybe it's okay to hate Cardassians.
Yeah, that's weird to me. That's the only thing. That's the only thing. I thought it was a really good episode, but like I was really hoping that she would start to learn that she doesn't, have to be a hater and like sort of just work with the Federation. Patrick Stewart did direct that, right?
Yeah, Patrick Stewart directed this, which is really interesting.
I did notice that.
And it is the first episode that introduces the Maquis. Although I think the real introduction of the Maquis happens on Deep Space Nine, if I'm remembering correctly. Because the Maquis are already up and running, and it's kind of confusing at the beginning. If you haven't seen Deep Space Nine, I think they make it more explicit what's happening.
I mean, I was able to understand out of context.
Good. Okay.
Cool. Like it's not hard to take the context.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of stuff that like the one with Patrick Stewart, or Jean-Luc's son or whatever. Like I didn't remember that guy, but I was like, oh, okay, it's easy enough to understand that guy wants to kill him.
Totally.
But yeah, I understand that the Cardassians occupied our planet for 50 years, but that's my point. Like, I thought she was going to like learn that
not all Cardassians are evil.
Yeah, it's about prejudice, and it's about, we've got hundreds of years of racism, in our country that we're trying to heal. Like there's always going to be a point in trying to heal it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So like,
like they did that episode with O'Brien a couple years back where it's like, it's not you I hate, Cardassian, it's what I became because of you.
Yeah.
That whole thing about how like you're at war and then you're at peace, and then what happens? Like what's your relationship then? And the Bajorans are a very like wounded people. I mean, the Bajorans have been their society has been devastated by the Cardassians for a long time.
Yeah.
And they have every right to be angry about that.
Yeah.
But
but
whole
you
thing,
also have to you have to want the problem to end.
On Star Trek, I want to see them overcome these issues because that's like a big thing that the show does a lot and does really well.
Yeah.
But I do actually like that they didn't do that this time, that you have a character. I mean, Captain Picard is kind of the bad guy in the episode if you look at it from a certain point of view, from like Rose's point of view, where she's finding this place of belonging, and she's finding good people that she can finally feel at home with, but they are also terrorists.
Yeah. It's a mixed bag. I mean, also her taking off and standing up for what she thinks is right kind of harkens back to the kind of thing that Picard admires in people.
Yeah.
So, and he was very happy to have her back. Everyone was so stoked when she came back, so like, it's interesting.
Yeah. There's a scene in this episode that's one of my favorite scenes where Ro and Picard meet in a bar, and she's like, he's debriefing her, but she's pretending to be a prostitute, and they go and like stand over in the corner, and they're like really close to each other and like touching each other.
That happens in this episode?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, how did I not notice that?
Didn't you said that you weren't able to finish this one, right? It was the only episode you couldn't finish.
I watched the first 2/3 of it. Yeah, so I didn't see that part. And you read the ending because
you ran out of time. You wanted to watch the last episode. Yeah. You got to go back and watch this. It's an amazing scene.
I read the synopsis and I did skip I like tried to get like pieces.
Yeah.
Before but yeah, I'll go back and watch that because that sounds awesome.
It's amazing. They're like so close together, and they're actually touching each other like slightly intimately while talking about this like serious thing that's happening.
Hot.
I also feel like it's kind of Rose's way of saying good. She's like wants to say goodbye to him. I think that she maybe knows that she might not be going back. You know? At this point, I don't think she's made the decision yet, but I think there's a part of her that really wants to reach out to him. And she's like, this episode's about a character searching for a father figure, like someone whose father was tortured and killed in front of her.
And then she finds one and he dies.
And she finds when he dies. Yeah. But then what he says to her is like, great leaders come up in the times where they are needed. He basically says to her, like, you don't need shit. Like, you're the real deal. You're going to lead these people. You know, when I'm gone, I'm glad you're here when I'm gone.
Yeah.
And I think that that's the validation, the parental validation that she's always needed.
So she was always going to pick that.
I think so. Yeah. I love it. I love this episode.
I'm not against the way it ended. It was just very surprising for me to see that. That's the last we see of Rose. She betrays the Federation and pieces out with these terrorists. And I'm like, damn, that's real. Like, we're getting real. We're almost done with this now.
Yeah,
like,
totally.
Yeah.
Like, Riker says goodbye to her, and it's forever, you know?
Oh, my God.
I read an expanded universe novel where during the Dominion War, Ro and Picard ended up on a mission together, and he was so mad at her for being a Maquis this whole time. It was great.
Oh, really? That's cool.
And also, Tarek and Sam Lavelle from Lower Decks were in that book also on like a prison thing. It was really cool.
That's awesome.
Okay, well, we made it to the thing that we've really wanted to talk about all night, which is
I keep coming back to this last episode.
The last episode. All Good Things, episode 25 and 26. Although on Netflix they have the version that's cut together, which I think was the original airing.
Watched.
Yeah, I think they cut it into 2 episodes for replays, but I think when it was on, it was 1.
It was an hour and a half long almost. Yeah. And
Yeah, so the synopsis on Memory Alpha is Picard learns from Q that he is to be the cause of the annihilation of humanity and begins an incredible journey through time from the present to the past when he first took command of the Enterprise to 25 years into the future.
So I walked into his apartment.
Now I'm putting this laptop down. I'm done with it.
Yeah, I walked into your apartment in tears.
Yeah,
because I had just finished watching it.
Yeah,
and it was just a really good episode. Yeah, a lot of times of these like too long drawn out ones, like it feels drawn out and like it feels like they didn't need to have it be that long. But I thought that it was a good length.
Totally.
Yeah, I thought that everything that we explored was really. I think they left things in a really good way. I thought it was a really good finale.
Yeah.
At first, I wasn't so sure.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
But as things started building up, I was like, this is just amazing. And it really did take the time that it needed, to build everything up. I
think that it's like one of the best pieces of storytelling in the visual medium that I've ever seen. I just like really love it. I love everything about it.
Yeah. And I don't think I disliked anything.
As a kid, I remember seeing it for the first time and being devastated that the show was ending. But then like the whole episode is just leading up to Picard playing poker with the crew. Like that's the whole point.
So that's why I was crying.
Yeah.
I was like,
I should have done this a long time ago.
Yes.
It's so good.
So good.
Like that moment is pure magic to me.
What was the last line? Something about the stars?
The sky's the limit.
The sky's the limit. Yeah. And I was just like...
Yeah.
That's like when it's...
5-card stud, nothing wild, and the sky's the limit. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Perfect last line.
This was well planned and one of the best finales ever. We agree.
I really like that these episodes show that all of Q's mischievous actions actually had a greater purpose. Totally.
Yes, absolutely.
It reframes the entire series.
It really in the best way. It doesn't retcon anything. It just reframes stuff.
Yeah.
And it's not like it's retconning the fact that like Q is a fucking asshole, because he is an asshole.
Totally.
That he did a lot of dick stuff, and yes, it was all in his twisted way for the greater good. He was giving us a chance.
Yeah.
But it's also not his people's place to say, I just really love how it reframed everything, and he actually turned out kind of being a friend,
Totally.
It was really, really good.
What I took from it this time is that, he says the trial never ended, the trial from the first episode.
And it never ends.
Where humanity is on trial.
Also said.
But what I never really thought about before is that if Q is the representation of the Q continuum, and the Q continuum is demanding him put humanity on trial, Q is an advocate for humans not being destroyed.
Yeah.
And Q keeps giving us chances over and over. And like Q even says in this episode, the helping hand was my idea.
Yeah.
The Q continuum is like... When I was watching it this time, I was like, well, wait, if the anomaly is caused by the time shifting, then why doesn't Picard realize that this is Q's fault? because like if Q is causing his time shifting, then this has to be Q's fault. But it's not. It's, the Continuum demanded that Q do this because they're at the point where they're ready to destroy humanity.
Yeah.
Like they think that humanity has had enough of a break and they either need to pass this test or be wiped out from existence.
Yeah.
Because I think the Q view humanity as a race that could someday come up to their level of consciousness.
Right. And that's dangerous.
And they're
to
exclusive
them.
about who they let do that. And I think they want to make sure that if you get to that point, you are going to be a positive contributor to whatever that looks like at that level of society. And that this whole show has been a test to see if humanity lives up to that standard. And then they finally passed the test in the last episode.
And two Picards died.
Yeah.
And they were willing to, even like the first... even the early timeline Picard,
the younger
they died, and I loved the speech that he gave them. He's like, this is coming out of nowhere. I know that you guys really have no reason to trust me. This is my first like freaking couple days here, and I'm asking you guys to risk your lives, and you might die. And you don't really know why. You just have to trust me, sort of thing. And I just really liked just that whole speech, like, was getting me riled up. I was like, yeah, let's do this.
I would do anything that man asked me to at that point.
It was just such a good speech.
Although he'd been acting so weird and like seeing things and hearing things, like I wonder if I would have trusted him in that moment. I'd be like, I don't know about this guy. This new captain seems crazy.
Good the speech was. They were like, all right, dude, we're with you, man.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like they felt his experience with them. Like he really did know them, and they didn't know how it could be. Yeah. But they felt like he really did know them in that moment.
Yeah.
And he was able to convince them that way.
I love that he doesn't confide in anyone in the past because he's worried it'll break the timeline, because it forces those characters back into an earlier dynamic when Picard was more closed off in seasons 1 and 2. He really starts to open up, I think, in season 4 after his experience with the Borg.
Yeah.
So I love that it made him more at odds with the crew, or more like standoffish in a way that felt kind of oddly familiar with those characters at that point before they knew each other so well.
That was one of my favorite things about this episode, something that I was talking about earlier, just seeing how much they've grown.
Yeah.
Because you get to see season 1, and I love how they were able to jump back into those dynamics.
Yeah, seamlessly.
And seeing early Data not understanding, these like
so good.
Not colloquialisms. What is it? It's the word. Anyway, just slang terms and figures of speech and stuff like that.
Figures of speech, yeah.
Yeah, like he didn't understand those back then. And over time you don't notice that he gets better at that stuff because you've been following the story for so long. So when you see that parallel with early Data and with 25 years later Data, even better,
even more human.
Yeah, even more human. Like seeing all of old them, except for Troy, may she rest in peace.
Yeah.
All of old them back on the bridge, like he commanded them, even though it was Beverly's, or at that point the Admiral Riker's command.
Yeah.
Technically he started commanding everyone, and it was so cool to see like everyone older and still following the commands and just being right there on top of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was so good. Just so much great stuff that I just loved in this episode. It was so just intoxicating. I loved it.
Totally. Yeah. My favorite part of the show is the interaction between the characters. And this was like an examination of it to find the best way forward for them after they leave us as a show. And I mean, they talk about how seeing how they'd all grown apart was reason to value each other because they love each other so much and their family. And I think maybe it's easy sometimes to be in a good point in your life and take it for granted. And I think that this time on the Enterprise is like a high point in the lives of all these characters.
Yeah.
And then to see them in the future after it had ended and see what they had lost, and then to tell those people in the present, like, this is how that's going to feel. Value this now. And that's what pushes Picard over the edge to go sit and play poker. Because he didn't think that was appropriate for the whole time he's been running the ship.
Yeah, but he's like, no, this is exactly when it's appropriate because we're never going to be this close again.
Yeah,
totally. This is our time. For our time, you know, and everyone grows and they become, and that's not bad. It sucks that Riker and Worf weren't friends for so long, you know, because of the Troy thing. And so what's the deal with Geordi's eyes? Did he figure that out, or
they
what?
were like implants?
Oh, okay. Because I know they looked weird, but he didn't need the visor anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this shows like a possible future, but then there are movies that are made that go further into the future past the show. And I mean, even in the show, it says like that future can't happen anymore because like we all know about it.
Right.
So then it's really interesting to see the movies where they write out more of the future of these characters and see like what from that episode they used and what they didn't.
Right. Does Troy die?
I'm not telling you anything.
Oh, man.
But the only thing I will...
boxes felt checked off. No loose ends.
Yeah, totally,
yeah,
Paula.
and
I agree.
I love that.
Yeah, it left me feeling so satisfied as a kid. And even I've rewatched the show several times since then. And completing this rewatch that I've been working on for the last like almost 2.5 years with you. Again, I'm like, fuck, that's good. Like so satisfying.
I love it. I love it because it's not satisfying just because they tied up a bunch of loose ends, because a lot of series will do that and it's very forced. You know what I mean? Like no one's endings are ever going to be that happy. That doesn't make any sense. You know what I mean? It's not actually an ending though. They kind of leave it open-ended.
Right.
That's the thing. Like you get to see some of this future, but it's not like then they live happily ever after. Like in this future, Troy has passed away. You know, in this future, Riker and Worf are not friends. And now we have a chance to fix it. Now the sky's the limit, you know? And I like that it's kind of like an ending that just leaves it very open for a number of things to happen.
Totally.
You know, it's a good ending because to me it's realistic.
Yeah. There's like this weird trend of shows having to have like a finite ending.
Yes,
and
exactly.
That's like something that The Sopranos like fought against.
Yeah.
And I feel like if you are a show like Lost or Battlestar Galactica where you are saying like this story has a beginning, middle, and end, you better fucking give me the end.
Yeah.
But for episodic television, there's no need to do that. I mean, it's actually kind of more effective not to. And I think that the writers of this episode understood what it was that made this show special and why people loved it. And it was the characters. Yeah. You know, it's the interactions of the characters. And to push them one step closer to like happiness and togetherness and the final moment of the show is brilliant. It's like the perfect thing to do.
In such a simple gesture. And not in some like big grand way. You know, like it's the simple act of him just like sitting down with them.
And when he says like, I should have done this long ago, and Troy says you were always welcome, like all of them know that he's been an idiot this whole time. Like all of them know that he's holding himself back from being closer to them, and then it's not necessarily something that he has to do, but he feels like it's important because he's the captain and he needs that distance, and that's okay. They respect that, and then he finally gets over it.
He knows that they're always going to be there for him in the end. Yeah. He's seen it. Yeah. You know? And imagine if he even forged that friendship even closer.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's really interesting. That's really interesting. He has seen that, like, even when he's suffering from a neurological degenerative disease and raving like a madman, they still do what he says.
Even if they don't believe him 100%, you know? I mean, they will do what's responsible. They're not going to let him hurt himself, you know? But
and also, like, getting the band back together when they're older is wonderful.
So cute.
Like, such a great choice. I mean... And Q doesn't even show up until halfway through.
Can we talk about how cool Q is in this episode? I fucking loved his chair that keeps moving around while he's talking.
that was in the first episode too.
I forgot about it.
Yeah,
I totally forgot about it. But it's a funny chair.
Yeah, it's awesome.
That outfit's hilarious. Like,
and he's like playing 20 questions.
Yeah,
but like you can ask a yes or no question. You have like 10 questions, and then he fucks with them on how many he can ask. Yeah,
and then he like takes the rest of his questions away because he says why.
Yeah. Not a yes or no question.
Yeah. The rest of your questions.
It made Q make so much more sense too. Like, because you've always known that Q likes Picard. It just shows up in the performance that Q wants to hang out with these guys.
Yeah.
That maybe Q's life.
That's why he's always showing up in the Starfleet uniform.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. And then to see that maybe Q has been our advocate among the Q continuum, it like really reframes all of our interactions with him in such an interesting way, because I think Q has been trying to push us towards passing this test.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's been his goal the whole time.
Apparent, yeah.
Yeah, like when he takes Picard in Tapestry and shows him his youth to show them like the decisions he's making in the future. I think he's trying to subtly shape how Picard responds to things.
Hating Q for sure.
That is a great episode.
Yeah, because I just really didn't like him at first, but then he's complex, you know, like, and then you start seeing more and more of what he's about, and now I like Q, you know. It's really cool.
There's also some wonderful cameos in this episode. They have Ambassador Tomalak, the Romulan dude.
He was in that. Oh yeah.
Played by Andreas Katsoulis.
That's how they were able to go into the neutral zone, right? Yeah.
And he was Jakar in Babylon 5, and I love him as Tamalak. I've always loved him, and I forgot that he was in the final episode. I totally forgot. And when he showed up, I was so excited.
I loved seeing O'Brien.
Yeah,
in
and
the
Tasha
last
Yar.
episode. Tasha, yes, we saw so many great people. It was so cool.
Yeah.
Just seeing O'Brien in the early timeline, just like being all confused, like
it was so funny because he was in the first episode also.
Yeah,
but he was way thinner and he fit that uniform a lot better.
And he wasn't like an engineer guy, right?
Well, Picard refers to him as chief, but that's because he's the transporter chief later.
Right.
I don't think he's a transporter chief in season 1. I don't think that happens till like season 3 or 4.
No, he was promoted or something.
Yeah. But Picard is also like bouncing back and forth, so he might not know where he was when he said that.
No, I'm just saying, I don't know if he called him that. I'm just saying that like he was like, trust me, I can use you down in here.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And he's like, you can do it. Like, I know you can. Like,
oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. Yeah, because at this point, Colm Meaney was a main character on Deep Space Nine. Like, O'Brien is a main character on Deep Space Nine.
That's awesome because I love him.
Yeah, so he'd been off of Next Gen for like 2 years, and then this was a special guest appearance of another main actor on another Star Trek show. But this is what he came up doing. So it was just so
that is so cool. Yeah. That is so cool. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, they kind of like honored the actor a little bit.
That is so cool
by letting him do that, and then also saying that he was a special guest star. How did you feel about Denise Crosby coming back as Tasha?
It was great. It was great because we've had her back a few times, and I'm always kind of lukewarm on that because I'm just like,
because it's not Tasha.
It's not you. Yeah, I want Tasha Yar back. I don't want this other version that's like a Romulan.
Yeah.
I could give a shit about that.
Yeah, CeeLo, right?
I want real Tasha. So it was cool to have her back, even though I didn't get to really see her kick any ass or anything like that.
Yeah.
It was really cool to see her being Tasha Yar.
Yeah, just seeing Picard. What was that? You called Dan?
Yeah. Give me a sec.
Okay. Hey, Fire Goddess, what's up?
You may hang up or press 1 for more options.
I'm sorry, I didn't actually mean to call you, and I'm live on this podcast still, but I thought I would leave you a message. What's up, dude? Give me a call. Bye.
Sean says, have either of you seen the Comic-Con videos where Brent Spiner does a Patrick Stewart impression? I have seen that, and it's amazing.
I will
He's
look
like
it
got
up.
it down. It's
I bet he does.
Funny.
He's a really great actor.
Yeah, and Paula says Q is guardian angel instead of annoying little brother. What a concept to end with. Totally.
I love it. Yeah, that's a really great way to put that.
Fire Goddess, is that All Good Things a reference to the episode that we're talking about right now?
Yeah.
It must be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this episode is still like in my top ever of the show. Like there's times where I've wondered if maybe it's my favorite episode.
It's a really good one. Yeah. It's up there for me, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Actually, now that I think about it, I think one of my favorite episodes, because people are always asking us this question.
Yeah.
And sorry to cut you off again.
Oh, no. I already forgot what I was saying.
but what's it called? I think that one that I'll have to go back and look definitively at the list. I wish I had one for this episode to like read off to you about which ones are my favorite episodes. I should have prepared more. But I was
thinking the same thing. I should have done that.
I will definitely say that the ones where other people are commanding the ship. So Beverly being a commander, and Beverly was
captaining her own ship.
Yes, captaining her own ship. That was one of my favorite moments of the entire series.
I loved it, and she was Captain Picard.
She was Captain Picard.
We didn't even talk about that.
Yes. Oh, so good. So anytime that's happening, that's one of my favorite things ever. Mm-hmm. Just seeing what somebody else does with that role. So definitely in my top 5 are the ones when Data is like, why wouldn't you consider me to command a ship? And he's like, oh, wow, I didn't think about that. Yeah, sure. Command a ship.
That was Best of Both Worlds Part 2, wasn't it?
I think something like that. It was the second parter. And thank you. Thank you. I love it too.
The blue lips have been a hit. Yeah. They're a hit. Maybe I'll start wearing it.
It's one of my signature. My Bitmoji has blue lips and blonde hair.
Nice.
But what's it called? Oh yeah. So yeah, Data captaining a ship and then like forcing somebody to take his orders. Remember that person was like, one of the people on the bridge was like, kept arguing with him, and he's like, you need to listen to me.
Yeah.
You know, like that is your job right now, to listen to me. Stop being like this, you know, in a way cooler way, in a more Data-ly way. But that's what he was saying. And that happened again in this season when Worf kept questioning Data's decisions, because Data was commander because Picard was indisposed or something like that. The whole away team was gone at one episode. Anyway, anytime that happens,
that's your thing.
That's my thing. I love that. Yeah. So yeah, I really loved seeing Captain Picard running her own ship.
What did you think about the fact that they had gotten married and divorced?
I loved that.
So did I.
I loved that. That is so much more realistic to me than being like, then these two people got together and then these two people got together and everyone lived happily ever after. Like,
totally.
Yeah. Like,
and then they show Worf and Troy together, like in the prime timeline, like in reality, like they are dating.
Yeah, they are together. And he's like, I feel like we should talk to Riker about this. And she's like, he's fine, dude. Like,
yeah. It just makes you want to see more so badly. Yeah. Right. I think I want to see them together so badly.
Absolutely.
I love that they like dangle that like a tantalizing little thing, like, oh, maybe Worf and Troy would be good together. I don't know. And then finally, the very last episode, it happens, and it just feels so good.
Yeah, I love it. Well, they don't kiss though. They're about to. And then,
but they were gonna.
Picard needs to.
What's the date? Tell me the date.
Block her.
Oh man. There's a line where he says, I just like walking around the Enterprise with my bare feet. I love that.
I love it.
Sean says, what about future Data? He had that white streak in his hair. He looked like a skunk.
It was hot. Yeah. I loved it.
Pepe Le Pew. Yeah, totally.
I loved it.
Yeah, I liked it too. Remember when he like grew a beard? Because he thought it was distinguished.
Yeah, that was weird.
This was totally a callback to that, where he said that it looks like distinguished. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
And
I love
like
that.
His maid is all like making fun of him.
Yeah,
it's really cool.
Yeah,
I loved him in this episode so much.
I love that. I love that not having the conversation about Troy is what broke Worf and Riker apart.
Yeah,
because they never had the chance after she died.
Yeah, and she mentioned he's like, maybe I should talk to Riker. So I bet he's going to now.
Yeah,
like
I'm sure he will now.
Yeah,
yeah,
because you don't want to jeopardize that friendship.
Yeah, totally. And you see a kiss between Picard and Beverly.
Yes, finally.
Which didn't actually happen because the timeline was reset, which bums me out. So I don't know, like, they don't really answer the question of, like, will Captain Picard and Beverly still go down this road? Because I feel like if they know they're going to get divorced, maybe they won't go down the road. I wonder about that.
Oh, that's a good... They are probably the most likely to just be like, maybe we shouldn't do this, though. They're always bitching out like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't want to tell you anything more because, like, I mean, Worf comes back on Deep Space Nine.
Yeah,
so
don't say anything. I don't want to know.
Yeah.
Data never really got over Tasha.
You never get over your first.
No, it's your first. Yeah. I wonder if Data dated other people, though, now that he's like has I'm pretty sure that it's pretty strongly alluded to that he has got feelings. The personality chip or the feelings thing.
Well, I really want to know what you think about the movies. I would love if you want to watch.
How many movies are there? Four? God, dude.
Well, the first two are amazing, and the second two I really like, but a lot of people don't.
Okay.
But there's like really fun, good stuff in all four.
I'll probably watch them. Yeah, it's just so I just watched 7 seasons of something, and
well, let me know if you watch them because I would love to chat with you about it.
So difficult. Like like I'm on the internet so much, it's ruined any sense of like focus.
Yeah.
that I have. Like I just like I can't stand. I'm really bad at movies now. Like the internet has ruined me for movies. Like just sitting there for like 3 hours at a time, just watching one thing. Like I have no problem with the sitting there part, but just watching one thing for 3 hours.
Because you're on your phone, right? While you're watching.
It's like doing all kinds of stuff. Like I can't just like. I need to not be on the internet so much. Is really the answer. But
well, if you let me know if you've watched those movies because I'm dying to know what you think.
I'll let you know. I'm still deciding if I'm gonna watch. If I'm going to take a break from Star Trek or if I'm going to go on and watch DS9.
DS9, I think if you're having, I love DS9 and I recommend every episode. There are some bad ones for sure, of course, but that's part of the experience of Star Trek.
Yeah.
But you could always like find a list of, must-see episodes.
I would never do that. I would.
Cool.
I would.
I appreciate that.
I would just watch all of it if I'm going to watch it.
Yeah. What about when Data
I was
dated
thinking
that crew
about
woman
that.
Trying to figure out love and relationships?
Yeah, that was funny. I like that episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the first one that Patrick Stewart directed.
Oh, really? It was
Yeah.
good. It was really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now that you finished the show, I mean, we talked in the very first episode about how I think that this show is like really influential on modern pop culture.
It absolutely is. I would definitely come to that same conclusion for sure. Just a lot of what I see is just very reminiscent of things that I've watched growing up, which came out well after Star Trek, TNG. So yeah, I definitely agree with that statement.
Yeah. And are you happy that you took this journey?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, if anything, I loved almost all of it. Some of them were garbage, whatever that happens with any show that runs 26 episodes a season.
Yeah.
And does it for 7 years. But yeah, I definitely am, because it's one of those things where if I mention Star Trek, most people I know have watched it.
Yeah.
And I never know what they're talking about. So I'm just glad to like be part of that world, if anything.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, you've seen every episode of what I think is probably the most highly regarded of the Star Trek.
It really is. And
at least now.
And I think I've never seen any of the other Star Trek stuff, but I think that that's with good reason, for sure. The writing is great. Almost everything's great. It's definitely a product of the time, Native American episodes notwithstanding, most of it is really good, and most of it is ahead of its time. Yeah. I would say.
For me rewatching it, I had watched it probably like 7 or 8 years ago all the way through. It had been a little bit since I'd seen. I mean, I watch episodes here and there all the time, but I hadn't done like a straight watch through in quite a while.
Yeah.
So for me, in the first episode of this podcast, I talked about how I thought it was the best show ever made, and that nothing was ever going to be better than Star Trek. And I was so excited to like rewatch it again. And I came to the conclusion, I mentioned this to you last time we recorded, that I think it's my favorite show ever. But TV has changed so much. Like,
we are definitely in a golden age.
We're in a golden age of TV. Where like you don't have bad episodes in seasons anymore.
Yeah.
It's not like expected to have a couple of duds per season.
Yeah.
Because you're not making 26 hours of TV every season anymore.
Yeah.
So, and I also have learned from the show itself that like trying to say that something is the best of anything is like foolish.
Well, yeah, I think that we would learn from Picard that you never want to speak in an absolute like that.
Totally.
You
and
never
like
know.
for me, it's my favorite show. I've also really been able to kind of tie a lot of it to nostalgia. That some of it I just love so much because like it connects me to my own memories, because I've watched it my whole life, and it like I can watch an episode and be back in 5 other moments where I've seen that episode at different ages, just like Picard in the last episode, and like experience that a little bit myself.
Well, I think that that's definitely why you wanted to have this podcast, because I've never seen it before. So it's easy for me to, I don't have nostalgia connected to this whatsoever.
Right. And I was curious to see what you thought.
So there are some episodes, if you go back and listen to all 7 of the Star Trek episodes.
Yeah. Which were all at least 2-parters. Well, most of them were at least 2-parters.
Yeah.
Or just really long.
But if you go back and listen to all of them, there are a lot where you think they're great, and I'm like, that was a garbage episode. Like,
there's also been a couple times where you liked episodes that I hated,
and I hated them, and you have to wonder how much of that is nostalgia and how much of that is
just taste.
Like
things. There is no this is the best and this is the worst. There's like, this is what I like the most and this is what you like. But I can definitely safely say at the end of this journey, once again, that this is still my favorite show.
It is wonderful. I loved it. I would say that it's definitely up there for me. I don't know if it's something that I'm going to go back and watch all of repeatedly, like Doctor Who.
Yeah. Currently,
I'm in my probably 8th rewatch of that entire series.
Like New Who?
Yeah, New Who. Yeah. I don't care about anything else. But what's it called? I don't listen to any of like the... I liked Torchwood. I've talked about this before. We should do a Doctor Who podcast. I want to do that. Yeah. Just like an episode to talk about Doctor Who, because I can easily talk about
that'd be great. We've talked about doing that.
So, like almost every time we get together.
We did it once when you were going to start a show.
Yeah, it was bad though.
But it never got released.
You're so much better at this.
High.
We were so high. you hadn't been doing that for this for that long.
Yeah.
And I am just not a podcast host. Like I'm not. That's not me, you know.
I got extra high because you were driving, and then we didn't go anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was just, it was bad. So anyway, we should do one where you're running the show. I would love to do that. But anyway, my point is, I don't know if I'm going to go back and watch the entire thing over and over again, but I'm definitely going to go back for certain episodes. I know that there are going to be times when I'm just going to want to watch, you know, Data, you know, in a relationship, or Data, you know, like the LOL episode. I definitely want to watch that again. I definitely want to watch that episode where they have that video game that gives them orgasms and nearly kills everybody.
The game.
Yeah.
Somebody made a VR version of that for a VR headset. Oh yeah, you sent that to me. Oh my god, that's crazy.
I was like, have we learned nothing?
Yeah. Oh man, we missed some comments here. Let's see. Paula says, save DS9 until you start missing the Star Trek world. That's good advice.
I think that's great advice, and I'll probably do that. I just don't think it'll be very long before I pick it up.
I think that's good.
Yeah,
that's a good sign. Also, I'm really curious to see what you think of Discovery, the new one.
I'm not ready to start that yet.
Okay.
I have this thing about starting TV shows nowadays. I hate when other people influence my opinion, and I'm getting too many opinions from different directions about it, and I want to be detached from that before I start watching it.
Cool, I like that. Fire Goddess says no TV show has added as much to current pop culture as the Star Treks.
I can see that just in the sheer number of Star Trek material that there's been.
Yeah. I think like Star Trek and Star Wars are both like really high up there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Agreed.
Hoovian in the house.
Nice.
Yeah.
Paula says it's so super cool of Jeff to devote so much time to this project and let all of us see it from a fresh perspective. I totally agree.
Oh, thanks,
that
guys.
Meant a lot to me. I really appreciate that.
I've really appreciated being a part of it.
And you always leave it until the last week before we're going to record to watch the entire season.
Yeah, and you know what? I don't regret it. I honestly, I regret not starting a day earlier, basically. Yeah. I would like to not be coming in having just watched the last episode necessarily. I don't want to be under the wire. But I do like that it's always fresh in my mind.
Yeah.
Because I have a memory problem because I smoke so much weed. So like if
I know.
So if I like watched it in a decent amount of time, I would come back not remembering anything. So but yeah, I really, really enjoyed it. Thanks so much for listening to my words, you guys.
Justin's still behind on Doctor Who, hasn't seen all the Capaldi episodes, and Fire Goddess says so much love for Discovery, loving the cast. I'm conflicted on Discovery. I know Paula doesn't care for it. I've loved a few episodes, and then a few I was like really angry at. Yeah. But yeah, it's been really interesting for me to like, because I know you pretty well. We've known each other for a long time. And it's been really interesting for me to see someone that I know that well go through the journey of Star Trek for the first time.
Yeah.
And actually, Andy has started watching it since we've been dating, and
so you get to see it all again.
I'm
from
doing it again.
Else's eyeballs.
And with that one, I've been coming in and out. Like I'm not watching every episode with her. Like she's doing it on her own, and it's something she started on her own because she was curious.
Yeah.
Just because I talk about it so much, and then she got really into it, and it's been really exciting to watch her like watch these episodes and get all excited about it from a different point of view than you have. So, I mean, for me, podcasting like started with this show. Like, I wanted to podcast about this show. Yeah,
you were just going to do this show, I thought, for a hot second. You were like...
I considered that. Like, I thought about doing an episode by episode.
You wanted to do all of Star Trek. You wanted that to be like the first number of episodes. Not all of Star Trek, but just TNG.
I've always kind of wanted to do a show where I just went episode by episode through this show.
Yeah.
And then maybe do all of Star Trek after that.
And then we decided that might be too intense.
There was so much I wanted to talk about, and I just wanted to have like random conversations about nonsense. So, I mean, by episode, like my second recording, I mean, even by our recording, I knew I wasn't just going to do this show.
Sure.
By the time we recorded episode 1.
Because you had been talking about it for a while. So.
Yeah, I went through like different permutations of what I was going to do in my head before it happened.
There's something to be said for watching a show as it airs alongside current events.
I agree with that. Yeah,
and I think that we really saw that this time with the warp stuff. being bad for the environment, and that,
even though this show came out in 1993, still pertinent.
Yeah,
just like rewatching The Matrix, I was like, holy shit, this means more to me now than it did when I was younger.
And it's again with the reframing, like that's always going to be interesting, and I think that Star Trek really lends itself to that. It's always going to be relevant, and I think that's why it's such an influential show.
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, I'm actually my friend Jane and I are going to be doing Firefly episode by episode, because like this has been like the core
Let me special guest on something.
The podcast. Okay.
I want to come in for one of them at least.
Okay, cool. Yeah. And then that's like the next thing that I'm moving into for episode 101. I hopefully episode 101. I'm sure I can make that happen.
Yeah.
Because we haven't recorded it yet, but it's this has been awesome. It's been amazing to like journey through this show with you, and
it's been so fun. I can't believe it's over.
I love the symmetry of it being on the 100th episode. It makes me really happy.
It was perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I can't believe it. We did it. It just occurred to me right now, like we're coming to the end of it now.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, like what are the chances of like we both still live in the same city?
I know. It's been almost 3 years.
2.5 years.
Almost 3 years.
Really?
In February, it'll have been 3 years.
Really? Since you moved here?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, not since we recorded the podcast.
Oh yeah, I guess not.
Totally.
But I'm just saying.
So that's crazy. Yeah, it feels like you just moved here.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Hello, Jeef. Hello. You can't take the sky from me. Oh man, you have to let me special guest on one of those, please. I'm begging you.
Let me know which episode.
Okay,
we'll make it happen.
I'll start rewatching it. I'm gonna go home and watch that shit right now.
I've been waiting for years to rewatch Firefly because I knew that I was going to do it for the podcast, and I wanted it to be fresh.
Yeah,
and also because there's so little of it, I want to go like episode by episode and take my time with it.
Absolutely, you should read some of the comics. They're great.
I have.
Yeah, we'll talk about it.
Yeah, something else that I'm gonna do is do a sci-fi on trial for the Star Trek Next Generation movies. So if that's something you want to take part in, you're definitely very welcome to join.
Yeah, maybe I'll at least watch the first one.
Yeah. Like I've been wanting to do that for a long time. Also, I think I want to do a trial of the second two movies because the first two are pretty well liked, and the second two are controversial, and that's always more interesting for the trial.
Yeah, of course.
And I'd love to have you. I'd love to have you on that if you want to do it.
Okay. Well, I've been wanting to do a sci-fi on trial, but I never tell you in time. Yeah. You're always like figuring it out, and I'm like, I need to tell him I want to do that, and then I just don't.
Yeah, I always do a Facebook post and say who has strong feelings about this,
and I'm like, I have strong feelings about all of it, but then I psych myself out because I'm like, oh, what if I don't have enough to say and this and that and blah.
You?
Yes, absolutely.
You will have enough to say. Yeah. I'm 100% sure. Well, I would love to have that be the first time you do it, because like that's going to be kind of a continuation of this whole process.
Yeah, why not? We'll just keep it in the theme.
And we could get like everyone back that's talked about this show with us in the past.
Oh, that would be so good.
Yeah.
Reunion show.
Yeah, like Tiffin, Ian, and
Kayla.
Yeah. If I haven't talked to them about it, but if they're into it.
I want to get Andrew Lee Creech.
He's on the Matrix trial. We're recording that tomorrow.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I miss that guy. I haven't seen him in a long time. Andrew, I miss you.
Yeah, Andrew's the best.
If you ever listen or watch this. Anyways.
Yeah. This is so much fun. I don't know why I feel like compelled to not just watch this show, but like make dozens of podcasts about it. But it's like really satisfying.
I get it.
I don't know.
I get it now.
I just need to like talk about it.
I understand.
That's awesome. I understand. What is it? Can you tell me? Because I don't know what I'm doing.
It's the same feeling that I get when I watch Doctor Who, I think.
Yeah.
I can talk about it for hours, and
it just feels so important in my life.
It was important to you in your life, and Doctor Who is that for me.
Yeah,
like it's always run a parallel with how I feel about my life. It just hit you at the right time, and it's just the right show for you. You get it. It's part of your. It's part of your heart.
Yeah, and I mean, more than that, just like sci-fi in general is that on in a broader way. Like I get that feeling from so much stuff, and a majority of it is sci-fi.
Yeah.
I get it from like everything, like fantasy, fucking Survivor. I love Survivor. But like sci-fi is the one that just, I don't know.
I'm definitely a sci-fi person too. I've come to really accept. Like I like some fantasy stuff, but I think that's why I love Doctor Who so much, because it's just fantasy with a sci-fi backdrop. Honestly, it may as well be magic.
Yeah, totally.
Like none of it makes any sense.
So is Star Wars.
Yeah. So and I did I mention on this thing that I just rewatched all three of the Star Wars. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah,
it was like 3 hours ago.
Damn, dude.
We've been talking for so long that it's hard to remember the beginning of the conversation.
I think it's time.
This will have to be a two-parter. I don't think I'll be able to get this out in a week.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But anyways, yeah, I love that kind of thing. So, sci-fi is just always going to be close to my heart. I'm just not a fact memorizer like you are. You like to.
Yeah. Yeah,
but I remember feelings and stories and stuff, you know, but
that's what I focus on more now.
Yeah.
Lyme disease has actually really affected my memory. And also because I use a lot of weed to deal with Lyme disease.
Well, there's that too. And also I just feel like as you delve further and further into this like really just sci-fi world, because that's what I've seen you been doing in the past 3 years. Like since when I moved up here, you were into sci-fi. You were always into sci-fi, but like now it's like your whole life. You know what I mean? And I feel like that wasn't the case when I first met you. You know what I mean? So I feel like as you delve deeper into this world, like you don't have as much time to just be like, this thing happened on this date. And, you know, like, like you're just doing so much with sci-fi and it's really appreciated. I know everyone loves it. So,
well, I hope so. Thank you. Yeah. I mean, this show has been like at the core of my fandom of all things my whole life, you know?
Yeah.
The Next Generation.
It's hope for humanity. It's a strong moral compass. It's a place to go when the real world disappoints.
Yeah. I mean, for me, like at the heart of science fiction is that it's a way to see a positive future so that you can help create it.
Yeah.
That's why it's so important to me, is because like we need to change now so we can make a positive future. And Star Trek is the best example of that.
It's the best example, yes.
And that's why it's at the core of my fandom.
Yeah.
It's because of
that's
that.
why that's always going to be in the middle for you, because it's the best possible future you can imagine.
Yeah. And something
really
about...
And that's the same for me, Doctor Who, is like there's always a new adventure. There's always something good that you can do.
I feel that in Doctor Who, absolutely, because I got into that later.
And it's always given me like hope, you know?
Hope,
and
absolutely.
And I love feeling that from a TV show.
Yeah. And for me, just like the act of podcasting about it, feels like I'm helping to maybe make that future happen, because I'm talking about it a lot and I'm spreading that out there as far as I can get it to go. And like if that has any positive impact anywhere, that makes me feel really good about myself. If not, it's still fun. So who cares?
Yeah, it's cool.
Still fun.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's going to do it for the 100th recording.
Baby.
Yeah. Although this is so long, I'm sure I'll cut this into 2.
That's cool.
Yeah, but the 100th
100th session.
100th session.
Yeah.
Yeah. The math is shaky because I've cut a lot of others in half also. Yeah. So who knows?
It's okay.
But
the 100th.
The episode that says number 100 will contain part of what we just did.
Yeah.
And it'll be very satisfying.
Yeah.
And thank you guys so much if you're following along on the live chat. You guys have been amazing. I really appreciate
Justin.
The contributions. Like everyone was such a positive contributor today.
Yeah,
it was
a really fun group today, actually.
Yeah, totally.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, I really appreciate
Thanks
it.
so much.
And man, I guess we're done.
Yeah.
I really have to pee and I'm very hungry.
It.
So let's see. I wish I could fade out. I just have to hard cut eventually. So